everybody. Welcome to another edition of your favorite movie podcast, the Ragnarok summoning, Clark Kent reviving, Luke Skywalker destroying duo known by our super cool nickname, Force Perspective. This is episode 101, Justice for the Last Jedi. I am your host, Sports Guy 515, and Happy New Year 2018 to all of our listeners. We are officially back in the saddle, and we're going to be better than ever this year. And on this first episode of the year 2018, number 101, we will be discussing the last three blockbusters to hit theaters in our absence since we recorded episode 100, which is Thor Ragnarok, Justice League, and Star Wars The Last Jedi. And that's not all, folks, because we will cap off with a preview of tonight's Golden Globe Awards. That's right. The road to the Oscars starts tonight. But before all that, allow me to introduce my esteemed Force Perspective co-host. There's 3PO to my R2, the Rose to my Finn, ladies and gentlemen, Adolfo.
I like that you gave me the effeminate characters to the masculine ones. Thanks.
So you saved my life, though.
Well, okay. So it's because I love you. I'm just sitting here with a pounding headache. Hopefully, it won't affect my performance here. But I'm taking the best medicine of all. It is a imitation Trader Joe's Corona. So there you go.
Nice.
It's a Trader. It's Trader Jose.
Is that really what it's called?
It's called Trader Jose Premium Beer. It's actually not bad.
Wow.
It's actually not bad. You put a lime in there, it tastes pretty good.
And what's funny is that in the same building that has the Alamo Draft House in Brooklyn is that big like mini mall. There's actually a Trader Joe's downstairs in the food court. And I actually walked in there not recognizing anything that was on the shelf, and I immediately just walked out because I just really don't have a Trader Joe's like around my area, neck of the woods. So it's like it seems like it's a hipster spot. So naturally, Brooklyn would have one. I walked in for like 5 minutes, and I just walked out. I didn't understand nothing.
They have good food in there.
Yeah. Well, I'm definitely gonna check it. Look for the Trader Jose. Maybe pick up a couple of bottles and see how that is. But,
plus, you can get wine for $3 there.
Really?
Yeah, $3 chucks they call them.
Well, all right. Apparently, there's a few things I got to pick up next time. Actually, I'm going to be down there on Thursday. I'm actually going to check out. You'll probably laugh at this, but my first trip to Alamo for the year is going to be for. There's a little program they're doing called Champagne Cinema, which is a brand new signature series they're going to do for the year, and the first film for that is going to be The Devil Wears Prada. I'm not going to get into why I chose that one. It has to do with a friend of mine, a female friend. So, but I like that movie anyway because Stanley Tucci is fucking awesome in that. So that's one of the ones that
Meryl Streep is funny.
Yeah, I didn't object to it right away anyway. So I was like, you know what? If you really want to go to that, we'll go to that. So, that's gonna be fun. Thursday. I'm assuming they're gonna serve champagne, or else I don't know why they would call it Champagne Cinema. But anywho, real quick before we start catching up a little bit, Adolfo, just for those people that are kind of wondering, okay. This is episode 101. What the fuck happened to episode 100? Well, folks, as I alluded to, I believe it was on the last Essential Film show we did. The editing for episode 100 is a pain in the ass, and I hate to say it that way, but it's entirely my fault. My laptop, I don't know how old it is, about maybe 10 years old, and I guess with all the programs on it, it's kind of like its kind of lifespan is coming to near the end where I should start probably upgrading soon. So as a result, the editing program, the software that I'm using is running really, really laggy, really slow on this laptop. So I'm already about like halfway through the episode, adding like everybody's well wishes and adding the extra stuff, like the extra trailers and whatnot. And it's kind of been making the laptop itself run a little slow than I would want it to. And as a result, I kind of get a little frustrated after half an hour of it lagging for like 5 minutes straight. And it's just like, you know what? I'll just finish it later. And that later is about 2 months later. So I just want to let people know we didn't skip 100. It's recorded. It's in the editing phase. It's just the little extra bells and whistles I'm adding is kind of adding up to a lot of lagging time on this laptop. So it'll eventually go up. Hopefully by the end of the month, I can have it up on iTunes for everybody. But we're going to skip ahead to 101 because we've got a few things to catch up on. But before that, how was your holidays, Adolfo?
My holidays were good. Yeah, the holidays were good. I took 2 weeks off of work, which is always nice. I actually go back to work tomorrow. So overall, pretty good. What I ended up doing, this wasn't a gift, this is something I got on my own. I got a MoviePass, But I actually got it in October. I didn't actually get the freaking card until 2 days after Christmas. Because if anybody knows anything about MoviePass, their customer service is god awful. It's just garbage. And after 2 months of basically harassing them, I finally got my freaking card in the mail. And I will say this about the service: the service is excellent. It has worked flawlessly for me. But again, the customer service itself is horrible. So if you are thinking of signing up for it, it is a great deal. But with that $10 that you're paying a month, apparently none of that goes to hiring customer service reps. But anyway, that said, I have seen. So I used it on 2 movies at the end of December because that's when I got the cards, and so far I've used it on 3 movies in January. So I mean, given that movies cost about $12.50 per ticket, more or less, that's what, $62, right? Am I right here? 15,
Yeah.
$62, and I paid $10 a month in December, $10 a month in January. So I've saved about $32 on 5 movies. That's not bad. So
That's
I
not
would
bad at all, man.
recommend. I am actually going to the theaters more often because of that, and I'm getting this. I'm really pumping in all the awards contenders right now. And then we'll talk a little bit about that stuff later, but I'm really getting them in now, and because it's easier with the movie pass, and then I don't have to think about where I spend my money. I can just walk right up. It's very easy to use. I'm not trying to turn this into a commercial because again, their customer service is shit. But just warning everyone out there.
I signed up about I think it was on December 27th. I signed up for mine, and I got my card just a few days ago.
See,
So
what the fuck is that? Why did it take 2 months for me?
yeah,
Bullshit.
and I remember. I think I told you. I think the day we recorded that last Essential Films, I told you that they had updated their customer service. They put up like a note saying that they were overwhelmed by the response, so they've been kind of backlogged on cards. And they're
Bullshit. That's
sending
what they
them
told
out
me.
this week.
That's what they told me. Bullshit. That they're just fucking whatever. I'm not gonna get into it. But and I'm not the only one. If you go to Twitter and you search MoviePass, a ton of people had that problem. So it wasn't just me. It wasn't like they were racist or something.
Right.
But But anyway, the service works great. Have you used yours yet?
Not yet. I was planning to use it last weekend. Unfortunately, I was not able to. And before we get into that, actually, real quick, my Christmas kind of sucks. Not because it was I get to spend time with family. I got to spend time with family. I got some pretty awesome gifts this year. One of them I'm actually using right now. It's a microphone for this podcast. So I'm really appreciative about that. But I did catch the flu Christmas Eve night, and Christmas Day through like the next couple days, I was completely bedridden. I could not get out of bed. I had the pounding headache. I had the aches, the chill, had everything that you think of with the flu. I had it. It was like 3 days of torture. And unfortunately, that me getting it full bore on Christmas Day really kind of put a sour on the holiday for me. But New Year's was good. By the time New Year's rolled around, I was already kind of 90% back to health. So. And at least for that weekend, I got to kind of enjoy it the way I would have liked to. And like I mentioned already before, I signed up for MoviePass around the 27th of December. Got my card a couple days ago. Meant to use it last weekend. Unfortunately, was not able to. But I did get an email this morning from MoviePass saying that, oh, you should have got your card already. So we'll be activating your card in 2 days, or you're activating your service in 2 days, whatever it said in the email. So I'm planning on using it. I'm taking a day off Thursday, personal day, so I'm probably gonna go in the morning to catch a flick before heading to Brooklyn for the Devil Wears Prada thing. So I haven't used it yet, but I do plan on doing it either on this upcoming Thursday, or this upcoming Friday will be my first use of it. It'll probably be for something like 3 Billboards, or for Call Me by Your Name, or for I, Tonya, one of those movies.
Yeah, I just caught up with 2 of those with my movie pass. So yeah, I'm pretty excited about that. So. They usually take them in most theaters. I've had no problem. AMC takes them, although they bitch and moan.
I was gonna ask you about that because I heard AMC kind of gives you a hard time.
But, no, they don't. Like the Clerks don't. Like not the Clerks, but not the Clerks. That's not the name for them. the people at that buy your tickets from, whatever they're called, the box office people. There you go. They don't really care. But AMC, the company, the corporation, does. Now I'm sure, like maybe the theater manager might be pissy about it. But here's what I would say to AMC: I've been to 5 movies in the span of less than 2 weeks, and I've bought concessions every time I was there. And I would, if I was paying full price for those tickets, I would have maybe gone 2 times, and and maybe bought less concessions. So I'm just saying, it's worth your while to continue taking MoviePass. So I don't know. I would get it as much as possible and use it as much as possible, because there's gonna have to be some sort of collision between AMC and MoviePass, because AMC is the biggest theater company, where they're just going to get pissy about it and not let you do it. One thing they won't let you do: you are not allowed to use your stubs points on MoviePass. So if you buy your card with MoviePass, you can't use your stubs to get points on it. You can still use your stubs card for concessions, but not for because technically speaking, MoviePass is already discounted, so you can't earn points on another coupon, basically.
Which, I mean, it makes sense in the end, so I'm not really going to complain about that. And
but
plus,
I'm just saying,
with the money I'm saving on movie tickets, I'll be more likely to indulge the concession stand.
Exactly, that's my point. And that's where they make their money anyway.
Exactly. Yeah, so I'm definitely going to start using it this week with a couple of these Oscar films. That's pretty much it. I mean, I had something else that I wanted to say. It slipped my mind, but I'm sure it'll come back to me in a little bit. I just remembered. So I believe Alamo takes them too, because I remember walking into the lobby every time, and I see the little sign that says for MoviePass, use this machine or go to the box office or whatever. So I'm gonna see if I can get some Alamo screenings out of the MoviePass too, because I believe they're friendly to it. Like the corporation as a whole is friendly to it. The only ones that I heard wasn't like you said, it was just AMC, like the big chains. I don't know if anybody else really is a little more vocal about it, but I mean, AMC seems to be the only one that's kind of not happy, even though they're still taking it. But
yeah, I mean, I would say
almost pretty friendly to it.
Yeah, AMC's taking them for now. Regal takes them. Cinemark takes them. Any other the one that in my area that doesn't take them is my local independent across the street. That doesn't take it. I don't think. What do they call ArcLight? Whatever they belong to. I don't think they take it. Landmark theaters don't take it, I don't think. But the big chains you should be able to get in with.
Right. Awesome. Yeah, I can't wait to start using mine, because I'm definitely gonna be able to pump out some more reviews, some more shows, between the two of us as well with this MoviePass. So that's gonna be awesome. We'll be getting to go to the movies more often, and for a pretty good deal, I think $10 a month, any one movie a day. That's awesome, dude.
Yeah.
So I'm definitely gonna take advantage of that. But that's pretty much it. So since we did 100, we've been we haven't done a Force Perspective since 100. We did a couple of essential films, but this is our first recording of Force Perspective since we recorded 100. It's the first one of the year for us as well. So we did 100. Now we're back down the road to 200. So we're gonna start off today with. We're going to do a couple of the blockbusters that we missed during our little hiatus. And the first one is going to be Thor Ragnarok.
So much has happened since I last saw you. I lost my hammer, yesterday, so that's still pretty fresh. And then I went on a journey of self-discovery, where I met you. Where are we? You have no idea. Hela, the goddess of death, has invaded Asgard.
Oh, I've missed this.
And you and I had a fight recently.
Did I win?
No, I won, easily.
Doesn't sound right.
Well, it's true.
Asgard is dead. And it'll be reborn in my image. I thought you'd be glad to see me.
I need to stop her here and now. To prevent Ragnarok, the end of everything.
This is one that I personally, I'll get to my, more in-depth thoughts in a minute, but this is one I really did enjoy. This is probably my favorite Thor movie of the three movies. And I'll let you kind of give everybody the mini summary of this film. So just tell us a little bit about Thor Ragnarok here.
So Thor Ragnarok is the third of the three Thor movies. It is the, I believe, 17th MCU movie. And it's directed by Taika Waititi, who is a lesser-known filmmaker, did a lot of more indie stuff. He directed one of my favorite movies a couple years ago called What We Do in the Shadows, which was a mockumentary about vampires, which is absolutely hilarious, and you should go out of your way to watch it. And when I heard that he had been signed on... Oh, and he also did Hunt for the Wilder People, which came out last year, which starred Dr. Grant from Jurassic Park, Sam Neill, and
Nice.
It actually starred in Thor Ragnarok. The lady that was Jeff Goldblum's kind of hench person.
Yes.
She was like the main villain in that movie. Anyway.
Oh, wow.
So that movie's awesome. People should go out of their way to see it. But so when I heard that he was assigned not to do Thor Ragnarok, I was like, well, that's very interesting because he's not exactly a blockbuster guy. He's very wacky and kind of out there. So I was really interested to see what would come out of it. And then whenever the trailer started coming out for this movie, I was like, oh, they it looks like they're letting him have fun. They're letting him like do what he does because this movie is certainly from his sensibilities. A little bit of a plot here we go. Thor, I believe this is the first time we've seen Thor since Avengers Age of Ultron, where he was freaking out in a cave about visions that he was seeing. So he was on his...
so out of place.
Yeah. So, no, it's so out of place. But so basically, he was talking about having to go on the search for the Infinity Stones, and so we kind of catch up with him now. He starts off the film being captured by his name is Surtur, who is a big fiery demon guy, and within like the first couple of lines he is already automatically being goofy and funny, which is not something we've seen out of Thor in the other two films and in the Avengers films. Now he had a couple funny lines in those other movies, like he's adopted or things like that, but they weren't he was a much more serious character in the previous Thor movies and in the Avengers films. In this, they go full on comedy with him, which is actually good because Chris Hemsworth has a very kind of natural ability for comedy, which we said when we reviewed Ghostbusters that ironically the all-female Ghostbusters movie, the funniest part was the guy, and he's hilarious in this film. But right away you get a funny version of Chris Hemsworth, and then that kind of sets the tone for the movie. Basically the plot of the film involves Odin. Basically says that he's dying, but he tells his sons Loki and Thor that when he dies, that Hela, their sister, who he had never told them about, is gonna come back to life. Which after spoiler alert, he dies. She comes back to life. Hela is played by Kate Blanchett, and she just got this whole like world domination, burn Thor down or burn Asgard down to the ground and become queen kind of thing. Nothing you haven't really seen before. And then it's just up to Thor and Loki to stop her, but not before they both get sent off into space, and they have to fight on this war planet with gladiators and the Hulk, and then they come back to Asgard, and then, big epic battle in the end. That's the basics of the plot. You've got, in this movie, you've got, as I mentioned, Kate Blanchett, who is... I don't think I've ever seen Kate Blanchett have this much fun on screen, because she is chewing that scenery, and usually when people say chewing the scenery, they mean it in a bad way, but I mean it in a good way. Like, she is doing with this part exactly what this part kind of needs. Jeff Goldblum is being Jeff Goldblum his character is named the Grandmaster, but he's just Jeff Goldblum. Really, he's not playing another part. He's just Jeff Goldblum in a robe, and he's amazing in this film. Mark Ruffalo returns as the Hulk / Bruce Banner. The whole movie is just kind of a lot of fun. It's a lot of joy. It doesn't really tie into the rest of the MCU. Like, there's not a lot that happens here that if you're watching it is going to tie into the Avengers Infinity War until the very end during the mid-credit sequence. There's a little teaser for Infinity War there. But for the most part, the story itself doesn't really impact the rest of the Marvel Universe. It doesn't impact anything going on Earth or anything like that. So it's kind of like it's kind of an odd. It's kind of like an odd chapter in the MCU where it's a movie that doesn't really affect anything else. But that said, it's absolutely one of my favorite MCU movies. It is the best Thor movie, which isn't saying a lot because the second Thor movie was not very good. I liked the first Thor movie, but it was very serious. But this one's just a lot of fun. It was just a joy to watch.
One of the things that I noted in my review of the film was that actually the first thing that really struck me after walking out of it was just I don't want to say I think I can throw we, as in like we, the Marvel watching audience. I think we've had the pleasure of really seeing Chris Hemsworth kind of get into that role the last few years. And he's really kind of grown into that role as well. Like he's really kind of shed a lot of the kind of seriousness of it and kind of injected some of his own charisma into the role. And he was a standout here. The guy naturally has charisma, and to kind of see him be able to display that in this movie was really, really awesome because it's always Loki that's usually kind of upstaging him when it comes to the charisma department. And it was really nice to kind of be able to see Hemsworth kind of stand toe to toe with Loki, with Tom Hiddleston, and kind of, take some of that spotlight back. And, that kind of helped out, and especially in the scenes with Thor and Loki together, because both Hemsworth and Hiddleston when they're both on screen at the same time, it's just magic, man. They just have such great charisma together, such great chemistry, I should say. And that was one of the things that I really, really liked. And the other thing is basically everybody else. I mean, like I mentioned already, Tom Hiddleston was awesome. Cate Blanchett was awesome. Anthony Hopkins in his little role here was awesome.
Well, Anthony Hopkins had the best part in the movie where at the beginning, because at the end of The Dark World, Loki was pretending to be Odin. So when you see Odin again in this film for the first time, it's Loki pretending to be Odin, but it's still Anthony Hopkins doing it. So he's acting like such a when they're doing the little Thor play, the Thor and Loki play in Asgard,
right?
And he's cheering.
Oh, by the way, did we? What about that cameo?
Oh, the cameo by Matt Damon, yeah, as Loki. By the way, second time he's played Loki on screen. Do you know what the first time is?
No.
In Dogma, his character was named Loki in Dogma.
Oh, touche.
So he's Loki twice. I don't know. I highly doubt that's why they did it, but I just found that funny and interesting. And then I think the guy who played Thor in the Loki play was another Hemsworth. So not Chris and not
Liam. It was the third Hemsworth.
Liam. It was the third one. So I think that's kind of funny too. That was funny as hell. You had the Benedict Cumberbatch cameo, which was pretty hilarious. And then when he's like, I was falling. How was he? That whole time. What did he say? It was hilarious.
Oh, I can't remember.
It's been a while since I saw the movie. But Tom Hiddleston, like you said, him and Thor have really excellent chemistry. And like you said, the reason the movie is funny is because these guys have been doing these characters for so long now that they can kind of step aside and make them... And kind of not make fun of them, because they weren't really making fun of them, but finding the humor in them, right? Whenever Loki stood up and clapped whenever Hulk threw around Thor like a rag doll, and he's like, "Yeah, that's what that feels like." That was hilarious. The movie is just such a joy to watch. It was just fun. I mean, I'm not saying that Marvel movies aren't fun, but this is probably the most fun Marvel has had with a movie in a while.
Absolutely. This movie is the definition of FUN fun. And, I mean, I wasn't even done, bro. Tessa Thompson was awesome here. Jeff Goldblum, bro, probably the MVP of this movie. And that's saying a lot because you had Hemsworth, you had Hiddleston firing on all cylinders, you had Cate Blanchett doing great work here. But out of all of them, the MVP is still my main man Goldblum because, I mean, it's freaking Jeff Goldblum. So that guy, whenever he was on, just kind of sucked the charisma from everybody else and absorbed it for himself, and it was awesome, bro. I loved him here. He was so funny. I mean, but that's Jeff Goldblum, bro. And then I mean, the one thing to maybe nitpick, and I'm admitting this is a nitpick here. It does follow the MCU style of storytelling. The big flashy action sequences, the self-aware humor, breaking the fourth wall here and there. is that really a bad thing? I mean, not really. If the formula works, why change it? But I know there's a lot of the complaints about the movie came from people who felt that they kind of took that a little too far. But at the same time, I'm saying,
Took what,
like
the,
I just
the
said,
humor too far?
yeah,
No, I think the humor was absolutely needed because I don't know if I could have sat through another like self-serious Shakespearean Thor movie. Like I don't know if I could have done it. We needed this breath of fresh air, and like I said earlier, Hemsworth has a really good knack for comedy. We saw it in Ghostbusters. We're seeing it here again. Like he's a natural comedic actor, and so is Hiddleston. To deny that like just because you're trying to tell a serious superhero story is boring. Like, let's not like. I'm glad that they went this way. I'm glad they went full on wacky with it and embraced it. And you know what? They still had moments of seriousness. Like, there's that moment in the elevator where Thor and Loki are talking to each other. Like, and he's like, it's like kind of this quiet moment where Thor's just like, I've always loved you. You're my brother. I still love you, but I just had to kind of realize that you're just always going to be bad, and I can't help that. You're just always going to be bad. And then you kind of see that moment where Loki kind of like realizes, oh wait, maybe I am an asshole. And it's like this very kind of sweet moment, but then like immediately afterwards, he's like, oh, we got to do that help, my friend is hurt bit, and then where he throws Loki at the people. So I mean, it's really fun storytelling. I loved Kate Blanchett in this movie because I not for nothing, Kate Blanchett as Gila is super sexy, and every time she was on screen, I was like, oh yeah, that does it for me.
Right.
That look she gives the camera when she's breaking the hammer, yeah, that's
great moment.
Stuff.
That was a great moment too.
That was a great movie moment,
it
was a great movie moment. But oof, she's a good looking woman.
Yeah, but I mean, what else could we say about the movie? I mean, it was firing on all cylinders. All the actors were great here. The action was great. The story was great. Everything about this was great. It was probably the most fun I've had, in the movies probably all year. I'm trying to think back now because I'm going to be doing my list for when we do our Oscar show. And as far as just having fun, this is it's up there. Maybe not the most fun, but it was definitely up there. It's probably one of the most fun times I had in 2017 at the movies, and that's really saying something.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, and that's pretty much all I have to say because it just works and it kind of keeps the momentum going. You think after 17 films or after 16 previous films, the MCU kind of starts showing signs of lagging. Not with Thor Ragnarok. This one to me says that Feige and all the other people that are over at Marvel are doing something right because there's still that train is still chugging along, man. And you got Black Panther next and then Avengers. I mean. There's no signs of slowing down that train.
Black Panther looks really fucking awesome too.
It does.
But let's be fair. They do have signs of weakness. I mean, Ultron wasn't great. Dark World wasn't very good. So it's not like they've had a great, like a perfect record, right? They have a good record, but not a perfect one.
Yeah, but they take those kind of speed bumps and they end up bouncing back from them with the next or the one after.
Yeah. But yeah, and I'm glad that this is like it's weird because you're gonna watch like if you just watch these movies not as a part of a larger Marvel context and just watch them like if you just look at the Thor trilogy, it just kind of sticks out like kind of like a little bit like a sore thumb because the first two are so serious, and then you have Thor trilogy or Thor Ragnarok, which is basically Guardians of the Galaxy. Like it has that kind of tone to it, right?
Right.
And I think and accordingly, I was reading a like an online article or something about the movie and how whenever Taika Waititi came on board, he was kind of asking Chris Hemsworth how much he's willing to change. Like, well, would you be willing to cut your hair? And he's like, yeah, let's do it. Let's cut it off. So like, I mean, at the end of the movie, Thor is. I mean, not only does he have his hair chopped off, he has no hammer. The hammer never comes back. That hammer's done. And he has no eye. Like they tear his eye out of his socket. So he's gonna go into Avengers: Infinity War with an eye patch. So and no hammer. So like it's a very interesting that this one's like I think the first time that the hero actually had some sort of like physical consequence to the next movie. Because you think about any of the other heroes, they all like are fine by the end of the movie, right? And going into the next one, this guy's not. He's missing an eye and his hammer. Like those are two major blows that were dealt to him.
Oh, absolutely.
So
Which just makes things interesting for the character itself going into the Avengers.
yeah, so I mean, I don't know if they're done with Thor movies. A lot of people are kind of speculating on what's going to happen in Infinity War. A lot of people are saying major characters are going to die so they can make way for new characters. They have announced what the next phase is after Infinity War, and we haven't talked about this since our last show. But I have a feeling that it has to do with the fact that they delayed it because Disney now owns 20th Century Fox's
That's right.
Library. So in that library, and with those characters comes the X-Men and the Fantastic Four. So basically, they have their entire. Now they don't technically own Spider-Man yet, but they're working with Sony So for all intents and purposes, they have all their characters back now. So I have to wonder if the reason they haven't announced Phase 4 movies yet is because they wanted to see where they can squeeze in X-Men and Fantastic Four. Because some people might not remember, when they were announcing Phase 3 movies, they delayed that right until they got the Spider-Man deal pushed through, and then they ended up pushing Spider-Man Homecoming into the slate. So I wouldn't be surprised if they're trying to figure out how do we get Fantastic Four in there, how do we get X-Men in there. And I certainly wouldn't be surprised if at the end of Infinity War we got a mid-credit sequence with Wolverine or something in it, or a tease of some sort, or Doctor Doom or something, because you can't let that opportunity go.
One of the things that have really interested me as far as the Disney purchase of Fox is that I really want to see the X-Men at this point rebooted again, because their current slate to me is done. After Apocalypse was so bad, in my opinion, it was like, you know what? And then, Logan kind of seemed like the perfect way to kind of end that whole X-Men franchise for Fox. After that, you can kind of start fresh with Disney.
Yeah, but they still got 2 more movies in. They got New Mutants, and they got X-Men Dark Phoenix.
Which I'm not looking forward to anymore. Like, the Dark Phoenix thing, which is, I mean, don't get me wrong, Dark Phoenix is one of my favorite comic book stories they've ever done. But it's just that they've kind of already soured me after Apocalypse. And this is a guy that used to run around saying Days of Future Past was 5 stars. And I so to be
no one
to
will
have
ever let you forget
Apocalypse, absolutely not. And to have Apocalypse just kind of let me down so hard is like, you know what, to me that's all dead to me now. So yeah, I'll see Dark Phoenix, I'll see Mutants or whatever that other movie's called, and I'm going in kind of like the way I went into Justice League, which is a nice segue, but I'm still going to see it, but it's going to be with the bar set pretty low until the day that Disney can finally start over from scratch again.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't hate Apocalypse as much as everyone else did. It's definitely of First Class and Days of Future Past. It's definitely the weakest one. To me, it was like a C film where everyone rates it as like an F. To me, it was like, it was a C. I didn't hate it. I didn't love it. It was just kind of, it's fine. What I really enjoy about this slate of movies is Michael Fassbender's Magneto. And
of
obviously
course, yeah.
Hugh Jackman as Logan, but he said he's done, but then he also said, well, if Marvel ever wants to do something, maybe I'd be Wolverine again. So, you never know. The problem is with X-Men is, more than anybody else, I don't think people are going to care about, who's cast as Professor X, who's cast as, Rogue, or who's cast as Jean Grey, whatever. But I think people are going to have a hard time replacing Hugh Jackman. Not enough time has passed, I think, to completely replace it. And again, I know, who knows if he even wants to do it. But and you're right, the Logan movie was such a perfect end to his career. Are people really willing to see another Wolverine on screen, though? I don't know if they are. How much time passed between the last Superman film and Superman Returns, and people rejected Brandon Routh immediately? Because he wasn't Christopher Reeve. And there was 20 years between those movies.
You're absolutely right.
It'll be the same thing whenever they eventually recast Iron Man. It's not like Batman or James Bond or something where you can constantly recast. This is a role that guy has made his, and it's forever etched to him. You know what I mean? So through good movies and bad, Hugh Jackman is Wolverine. So I would not be surprised if they recast it and go younger or go with a new cast or whatever. That's fine. but I think they better prepare for some backlash on that.
Yeah, I mean, but that's gonna happen with anybody. I mean, because no matter what, studios are gonna do what they want. They're gonna recast whoever they're gonna recast, and I mean, the way the internet is now. I mean, I remember. I mean, we always talk about this whenever kind of the subject of recasting kind of comes up, but when we talk about the backlash against Heath Ledger, that was kind of before social media really took off the way it is now. I mean, we had social media, we had people kind of voicing their opinions on the Heath Ledger thing, but it wasn't like. I found it more through like reading like magazines, reading through different like website articles, like from like Variety or Hollywood Reporter, and these people kind of voicing their opinions there. Deadline, and then it's kind of, once we actually see Heath Ledger in action, it's this award-winning performance, this Oscar-winning performance, and kind of people came around to it. But nowadays, like with Twitter, with all of that stuff, it's just immediate. As soon as the announcement goes up, oh, this guy sucks, Hugh Jackman forever. And, you're going to get all that like immediate, like literally like the second that the news drops, you're going to get the reactions like that. And, it's kind of sunk a lot of I don't want to say films, but it's sunk a lot of like hype around a certain roles in the past few years. There you go. Batman. And, the studio just has to kind of keep that in mind when they kind of make these choices now.
I guess from a I don't even know if nostalgia is the word for it. I'm not going to reject anybody who they cast. Don't get me wrong. I'm not going to be a dick like those Batfleck haters, because I actually like Batfleck. But I'm not going to be one of those people. Like whoever they cast as Wolverine, whoever, I'm sure they'll I'll give them a shot, right? But
yeah,
what is. It's just from like again, I don't know what the word is, nostalgia, but like a fanboy perspective, it would really suck if I never got to see like the Hugh Jackman Wolverine with like Iron Man and Spider-Man and Thor and all those guys. Like I really would have liked to have seen that, but again, you never know. Like my money is on they'll recast it. Like that's where my money is. But again, they do have 2 more movies set in that universe that they now own. What are they going to... I mean, how are they going to handle that going forward? It's going to be interesting.
Right. Well,
the Fantastic Four they can reboot, because that last movie was a piece of fucking garbage. But
of course. I know. I was going to say it's actually 3 if you count Deadpool. So.
Oh yeah, Deadpool. Well, Deadpool, and the thing is, they did say Deadpool can stay R, which is good. I'm glad that they said Deadpool could stay R. But here's the thing: a lot of people are like. Whenever the news, when the news came up about Deadpool, about Marvel buying Disney, about Disney buying Fox and what it meant for those things, people are like, "Oh, I hope they don't turn Deadpool PG-13 or PG or whatever." And I agree. I hope they don't do that. But given how the character tends to break the fourth wall a lot, I think it'd be kind of funny if you saw Deadpool in like an Avengers PG-13 movie and was constantly getting bleeped out for saying the F word, and then him freaking out at what that beeping sound was, and then no one and everyone else just looked at him like he was crazy. I think that's actually kind of comedy potential right there. Because that's the kind of thing that would happen in a Deadpool movie.
Exactly.
Anyway,
that's a pretty brilliant way that they could go with that. But anyway, so speaking of Batfleck, we can move on to the next film here on our docket, which is Justice League.
The world remains in mourning after the death of Superman. Violence, acts of war, and terrorism are all on the rise.
I had a dream. It was the end of the world.
Invasion.
I think it's something more. Something darker.
We're asking people we don't know to risk their lives.
Strong man as strong as alone. You ever heard that?
That's not a saying. That's the opposite of what the saying is. Divided, we are not enough. The world needs Superman. I made him a promise. This is why I brought you together. Ride ain't over yet. My man.
And it's before I let you take the floor, I actually want to say that what's funny is that when I did my review for Thor Ragnarok, I actually said I said everything that I said here, but I kind of made an effort to say that this was a lot of fun, it was a great time at the movies, and then I said your move, Justice League, because I think Justice League came out either the week or 2 weeks after Thor Ragnarok, so they were up fairly quickly after this one. So why don't you give us a little bit of a summary on Justice League, Adolfo?
So Justice League is the, for those who don't know comic book speak, Justice League is the Avengers for the DC universe. And I'm sure the hardcore DC fans would hate that I just said the Avengers of the DC universe, when technically, historically speaking, the Justice League came first in the comics before the Avengers did, by maybe at least 10, 15 years. Regardless, the Justice League teams up the previously seen Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman with the previously unseen Cyborg and Aquaman. Now, we did technically see... And the Flash, sorry. Now, technically, we did see them in YouTube videos at the end of Batman vs. Superman, which is their shitty way of introducing these characters. But regardless, they didn't really have any significant amount of screen time. We saw a brief cameo of the Flash and Suicide Squad, I think, and that was pretty much it. This movie is about... Okay, so before I go into this plot, that's very convoluted, I do want to just go ahead and preface this by saying I actually enjoyed this film. I actually thought it was kind of fun. It is very flawed, and I'm going to point out a lot of those flaws in this review. But honestly, I did kind of enjoy the movie. That out of the way.
Same here. I'll agree with you.
The whole plot of this movie is kind of a mess. So basically, we have Steppenwolf, who is the guy that you kind of briefly saw in I think in either a deleted scene or a post-credit scene of Batman v Superman. I think it was a deleted scene. That he was the guy that made Lex Luthor crazy by talking to him or something. I don't know. Who cares? He comes down from a planet that I don't think they ever named, but in the comics it's Apocalypse, and he's collecting these things called Mother Boxes. Mother Boxes are these kind of all-powerful MacGuffins that can they're MacGuffins. That's all you need to know. They're the DC Universe's version of Infinity Stones. And there's 3 of them. He has to collect them for all-powerful world domination, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Batman has been noticing these guys called parademons, which are these flying little demon guys that you saw in the nightmare sequence in Batman v Superman. He's been noticing these guys are coming out more often, and he's trying to track the source of it. He's figured out that this is the next big evil threat in the world, and needs to gather a bunch of heroes to help stop the evil. He knows Diana, so he tracks her down, and then the rest of the film, they're trying to make sure they get Aquaman, Cyborg, and the Flash together. They get the Flash pretty easily, but then they really have to work for Aquaman and Cyborg. That's pretty much the first hour of the movie. The next hour is whenever they eventually team up. They bring back Superman, which everyone knew was coming, but they bring him back. Superman goes crazy for about 10 minutes, and then and then he comes back to his senses. He's back on the team. And then they all unite to fight the big bad at the end of the movie, and with a happy ending. That's the basic plot of it. I really dumbed down the plot because it is really... The movie kind of goes all over the place, and is really super convoluted, but that is the basic, elevator pitch to the plot. Now, there's a lot wrong with this movie. But I will say there are things that I liked. I'm sorry, haters. I still like Ben Affleck as Batman. I still think he's actually really good in the role. I think he brings kind of a level of first of all, since I think Michael Keaton, he's the only guy who's actually done the voice okay, and that's because he's not actually doing a voice. They're doing a computer modulated thing to mask his voice, which is perfectly fine. That's what they should have done with Dark Knight. But I think he has a good physical presence to him. He looks imposing. He looks like he can kick your ass. He works as Bruce Wayne and he works as Batman. He's got a little bit of levity to him without being totally George Clooney Batman and not being totally super dark Christian Bale Batman. And he's got a good story arc in this where he feels guilty over the deaths of Superman and he's trying to rectify that. That's a good that's a solid storyline for him. So I like the Batman in this film. I like the Flash, even though he was a little too cowardly for my taste. I like the Flash. He was I like seeing how they did the speed in this movie. I liked the charisma of Ezra Miller. I had a lot of doubts about him because I'm a fan of the CW show, and I really liked Grant Gustin, who plays the Flash on that show. So whenever they cast somebody else as the Flash, I was a little kind of like most other fanboys. I was like, well, you got a perfect good Flash right there. But that said, Ezra Miller was very good. I still hate the costume because it doesn't make any sense why someone whose whole power is based on speed would wear metal armor that would slow him down. But whatever. He was a good addition. Wonder Woman was just as good as she was in the other movies. Aquaman was surprisingly fun.
You mean Roman Reigns?
Roman Reigns. Aquaman was surprisingly fun. I like the character. I think he was. I like that they're kind of going with like a badass surfer kind of guy. Like I think that was pretty cool. The one weak link is honestly Cyborg. First of all, this might be some pre existing hate. I've always hated Cyborg the character anyway. Cyborg is basically how he's presented in the movie. He's a teenager that got blown up or something, and he got a cybernetic armor, and now he's this cyborg, right? That they got this the origin basically, right? But in the comics, he was always a Teen Titan. Like, he's always part of the Teen Titans. He was a teenager, and that's where he belonged. He's there with Robin and Raven and Starfire. That's where he was. But like 10, 15 years ago, some writer decided to put him on the fucking Justice League. I was like, no. He doesn't fucking belong in the Justice League. What the fuck are you guys thinking? He's not good enough to be in the Justice League. And ever since then, they've like retroactively made him a lot more powerful than he actually is. Seriously, fuck Cyborg. I hate Cyborg. I hate that character. He's not good enough to be in the Justice League. If you really, and I hate to be cynical about this, but there's a part of me that thinks that they really just wanted to put in like a token black guy to have some diversity, so it's not a whole bunch of white people like it is with the Avengers, and that's fine. But you could have used the Jon Stewart Green Lantern. That's a perfect guy to replace Cyborg with. Like, you didn't need Cyborg in this movie. He's a shitty character. Not to say that the guy who played him, his name is Ray. Is it Ray Fisher? Is that his name? I'm looking at
some guy.
Cast
Ray Fisher.
Here.
Yes, you're absolutely right.
He was fine. He was perfectly fine in the role. I'm not knocking the actor. I just hate that, really. I hate that character before the movie. I hated the character during the movie. I hate the character after the movie. I think Cyborg sucks, and he shouldn't be in this film. So that is my weak link to that movie. Steppenwolf as the villain was lame. He's basically just one giant CGI PlayStation 1 graphic video game character. He looked horrible. He didn't look like every time his mouth moved, I was like, that doesn't look real. It doesn't look convincing. I got more convincing moments out of Thanos in the Infinity War trailer for 2 seconds than I did out of Steppenwolf in that whole movie. Whenever they fought him, it didn't look like they were fighting anything, just like they were fighting air. I didn't like the character. I thought he was a lame villain. They should have just gone with Darkseid, which was the original choice anyway, but whatever. I guess they're saving him for another movie. But that said, all of those criticisms said, I still had fun with the movie because and I don't know if this was Zack Snyder or Joss Whedon, who ended up taking over for Zack Snyder after the first cut. And we'll get into that in a little bit. But it actually felt like a comic book movie instead of the grim fucking, like, we're all so depressed that Man of Steel and Batman v Superman was. This was like, hey, let's have fun with people in costumes beating up other people in costumes. That's fun. That's what we kind of come to see these movies for, and this movie does deliver that. The final battle sequence is fun. Again, Steppenwolf looks like shit, but at least you have heroes doing like heroic things. And by the way, Superman's costume is actually blue in this movie, and he actually does heroic things instead of being a total dick like he was in the other movies. So this is the best I've seen Henry Cavill as Superman, even though he's had 2 other movies to star in Superman as. So I honestly think this is an okay movie. It's not the best. It's not as good as Wonder Woman. It's not on the level of a lot of the Marvel films, but I didn't walk out bored. I walked out like pretty entertained by the whole thing. So that's kind of my take on it.
Yeah, you pretty much hit the nail on the head when you just said it's okay. I agree 100%. This is just an okay movie. Like I kind of alluded to earlier, I kind of set the bar really low for this one because it was one of those things where I even said to myself, I might not even see this because I'm just so not excited for it. You know, number one, I mean, I'm sure you can agree with. So I think we talked about this in the past. They rushed this film to theaters like way too much. You know, yeah, they didn't want to be like Marvel, but at the same time, Marvel did it right with the Avengers, with the first Avengers movie. Everybody got their own movie first to shine, to get to know them, for people to get invested in them, and then they did the big team up.
Black Widow didn't get her own movie, but she was at least a part of Iron Man 2.
But she was in like what, like two or three of the other movies though, like
I think
with
just
a
Iron Man
significant
2. She was in. I don't think
was
she
it just
in,
Iron Man? I thought she was in
Yeah.
like a couple other ones of
No,
that
she was
first
just in
phase.
Iron Man 2, and Hawkeye didn't get his own movie. He had like a cameo in Thor for like 5 minutes. But Hawkeye is really the only character that people didn't have any sort of investment in going into this movie, going into Avengers. But that's fine. That's totally acceptable.
Which is fine, right?
Yeah. Sorry,
Yeah, but it's like, but at the same time, it's like 4 or 5 people got their own movies before Avengers. You know, here what it like Superman got one, and then no, Superman got 1.5 because you know, Batman versus Superman is like a half movie for both of them. You know, so I don't consider that a full movie for either of those guys. So Batman got half a movie plus a cameo in Suicide Squad. Superman got 1.5 movies. Wonder Woman got 1 movie. What about Aquaman? What about The Flash? If anyone should have gotten one, should have been The Flash before this movie came out.
Yeah.
Because he would have ran away with that, with the way he was received in this movie.
Yeah.
He would have been awesome with his own standalone movie. But it's like, you know, you get Justice League before you can really get invested in The Flash, in Aquaman, in Cyborg. So you don't give a fuck about them. You know, freaking Aquaman basically acting all like Roman Reigns. That's all I kept calling him the entire movie, because that's all he reminded me of was Roman Reigns. You know, Cyborg was kind of just there. He didn't really do anything. And then Ezra Miller kind of carrying it with his charisma was the only reason why I cared about The Flash. So it's like, that kind of hurt the overall expectations and the overall performance, I think, of Justice League, because, you know, when you have a film that doesn't introduce all of its main characters, or at least the majority of its main characters beforehand, you kind of go into it with people being apathetic to everything. And that's exactly how I felt, basically, for this movie. It was very apathetic going in. Like you mentioned before, it is overall, when you really kind of just focus on it as a movie, it is a fun movie. You know, the final sequence, you know, with Steppenwolf was a fun fight, I thought, even if they looked like super overly choreographed. It was still a fun fight. It was still a fun, you know, climactic battle. Yeah, Steppenwolf kind of looked crappy with the crappy CGI, but you know what? That's neither here nor there, unfortunately. I still had a lot of fun during that big final battle. And honestly, I can't really think of anything else to say about it. You know, you have Batfleck, which, you know what, I'm in your boat, but I'm also not, because I like Batfleck, but I don't love him. I don't love Ben Affleck as Batman. I think he's okay, you know, but he doesn't deserve a lot of the hate that he's getting. It's definitely better as far as the voice goes, like you talked about, with as you know, compared to Christian Bale. You know, this city just showed you that it's full of people ready to believe in good until their spirits break completely. You know, when they see Harvey Dent and all the heroic things he's done. You know, instead of hearing that grovelly, you know, over the top Batman voice, you know, they kind of did a little computer generated Batman voice for Ben Affleck, and it came off much better. Having said that, you know, he was kind of as far as, you know, as Bruce Wayne goes in this movie. I thought he did a better job in Dawn of Justice, and I hate Dawn of Justice, but I think because he had to share the spotlight a little more, with everybody else, maybe his performance suffered in a way because of that. Gal Gadot was awesome as Wonder Woman. You know, Henry Cavill was Henry Cavill, I think. I mean, his performances as Superman never really blow me away, and this was no different. I mean, it was kind of cool having him in a sequence where, like, when they revived him and he was having that fight with Batman. That was a pretty cool sequence. When he had that big comeback at the end, that was a pretty cool sequence. But as far as like
baby face run-in.
Exactly, the baby face run-in. But I mean, as far as the performance itself, it was just there. It wasn't good or bad. It was just, you know, it was just whatever.
I actually think this is the best he's done, just because they actually allowed him to be heroic. I don't think he was heroic in any of the other movies. I think he was just a guy in a suit in the other movies. In this one, he's actually like saving people and like being a nice guy, which is what Superman's supposed to be. And his suit is actually fucking blue, instead of that fucking dark gray that they've been getting in the last couple movies. So that's the kind of what. So did you catch any of the the digitized shaving of Superman at all?
I did. There was a couple of spots where it was really apparent, but there was one sequence where I read that it happened and I didn't catch it, which I guess is a good thing.
Yeah.
But there was the one on the farm. That one was that was so obvious, man. I looked at myself. I was like, "Are you kidding me with this? Like that's it looks
What's
horrible,
funny is
man."
what cracks me up about this, right? Is that it took like a team of like digital artists and probably millions of dollars to do that, and Paramount because Paramount was being a dick. Like Paramount could have just bought like a $2 mustache to put on him for the rest of the Mission Impossible movie, but instead they're like, no, you guys have to shave him digitally. We're not going to let him shave. Like that's balls, man. Like if I was Warner Brothers, I'd be super pissed about that. Like really, you guys aren't going to let us shave his mustache, and you can't like let him like just take an extra week to regrow the mustache or put a fake mustache at him from your props department. You really can't do that. That's hilarious to me. But there's a little bit of a controversy with this film. I'm not sure if you heard. So back in, I think it was March or April, something like that, of 2017. The film was basically done. The special effects hadn't been finished, but Snyder had basically completed a cut of the film. He put like some of the special effects shots, like where it says add special effects here. I'm sure if you've seen like rough cuts before, like that's what
Right.
It was, right? And he had a cut of the film made, and it was shown to some test audiences, and it was shown to the Warner Brothers officials. But apparently Warner Brothers was like, we don't like this. You need to reshoot a lot of this. And they gave him a bunch. So he was going to work on that. But then, unfortunately, we give Zack Snyder a lot of shit, but this is not his fault. He had a tragedy in his family with the death of his daughter. He had to go off and deal with that, as he should have. So they hired Joss Whedon to come in and do all the reshoots. Interestingly enough, Joss Whedon gets no on-screen credit, but apparently a good portion of that movie was Joss Whedon. So there's a little bit of a controversy because how much of that movie is actually Zack Snyder's vision, and does it deserve to be seen? So there is a petition by some hardcore DC fans that want like a special edition cut of the movie that's Zack Snyder's cut released, which I think is kind of an interesting idea. I would watch it just because why not? They did it with the Richard Donner cut of Superman 2, like 20 years later, right? So,
And you did sit through that extended cut of Dawn of Justice, which I still have not done.
I did sit through the extended Dawn of Justice, which doesn't make it better; it just makes it longer. It would be interesting to see, but apparently Joss Whedon basically had to take a bunch of WB's notes and change a lot of the stuff that WB didn't like about it. So, I kind of don't envy Joss Whedon's position here because he was kind of told, hey, this other filmmaker, because as a filmmaker, as a director, you're kind of all part of the same, crew, right? You don't want to like go in and like mess with somebody else's work. I'm pretty sure that was awkward, right? But like here you are, you're being hired to this job and they're like, hey, we want you to like take half of this away and do your own thing. Like, and then what are you supposed to do with that? Like you're going to do the best you can with what you got, right? So it's kind of, I don't envy Joss Whedon. I kind of almost feel bad for Zack Snyder that his movie was kind of taken away from him. So I kind of do want to see what his vision is, even if it's bad. I'm curious to see how it would have differed from this one.
Yeah, just for curiosity's sake, I wouldn't mind checking that cut out if it were to ever see the light of day. But I also want to talk about real quick too how this movie made money. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say it bombed because it made money. It made back its budget, but the performance was underwhelming by studio standards. Mm-hmm. So it looks like they're going to restructure a lot of the DCEU. I don't know what that means. I don't think they've announced concrete plans to how they're going to do that, but there's going to be a lot of restructuring going on as a result of this. And you know what? If they can kind of get – because this whole franchise, this whole DCEU has seemed very inconsistent from the start. And this Justice League, even though it was a fun movie in the end, having said all of that, it's still a fun movie. It definitely could have been better had this franchise been planned out a little more, I guess, forward thinkingly. And there I go making up words again. But I don't know. I guess I don't know what it entails, the whole restructuring, but that's interesting too. Because like I said, it made back its budget. I think it doubled its budget actually. But they're gonna. I mean, the box office to them was still underwhelming, so they're gonna make a lot of changes to this franchise.
Yeah, it's interesting because you go to Box Office Mojo. It is the 10th film of 10th highest grossing film of 2017. That's not bad. I mean, it came in behind, Guardians and It came in behind all the Marvel movies. So Guardians, Spider-Man, and Thor all made more money than it. Wonder Woman, its fellow DC movie, made more money than it. Which you would think the movie with more heroes would make more money, but it didn't. Beauty and the Beast was bigger. Star Wars was bigger. It was bigger. Despicable Me was bigger. Jumanji was bigger. So, I
mean, Fast 8 was bigger.
Technically, no. Fast 8 was number 12 in 2017. So,
for the domestic, but worldwide, I think it was number 2.
Oh, worldwide, yeah, I didn't see worldwide. But worldwide, it made domestic. It made 227. Yeah, okay. And worldwide, it made let's see, I think 600 some.
Yeah.
Compared to Wonder Woman, which made about 420 domestically and about 800 worldwide. So,
yeah.
Still. That is a disappointment, no matter how you look at it. That is a disappointment. So, it's it's interesting to see what they're going to do next. I know the movies that they already had planned, they're still going to go ahead with. For example, Aquaman is still definitely happening because it's shooting. Same with Wonder Woman 2 and the Flash movie, I think, is all still happening. Everything else is kind of up in the air. Like that Shazam movie they've been talking about for years is still up in the air. Batgirl is still not 100%. The Cyborg movie, which I could give shit about, is
exactly
the one thing. Here's the movies I bet we will probably see. We'll definitely see Aquaman because they're shooting it. Like that's definitely happening. We'll definitely see Wonder Woman 2 because that movie made a ton of money. And I would say 90% chance we'll see Suicide Squad because no matter how bad we didn't like that movie, it was actually a moneymaker for them. So that would actually, and Margot Robbie's becoming a huge superstar too. So you got to put her in a movie. Everything else, like I think that Batman movie is in question. I think the Flash movie might be in question. And I think the Green Lantern movie is in question. And then everything else I don't even know. A lot of people are speculating that instead of going with the extended universe, they're just going to go ahead and do like, this is just a Batman movie, and that's all you have to worry about. This is just a Wonder Woman movie, and just worry about Wonder Woman. Don't worry about how it connects to anything else. And they're just going to have standalone films from now on, which might be a better way to go.
For them, that might be a way to kind of cure what ails them. But
I know they've fired a bunch of people. Let's see, what's his name? David Goyer's gone. Zack Snyder's gone. Both those people were kind of involved with like the overall direction of the DCU. They need a Kevin Feige, and they need him bad. Like they need someone to helm this stuff, and they're just not doing it.
Right, absolutely. But in the end, will I see this again? Probably. I mean, if it's on TV, if it's on HBO, and I'm skimming through the channels, and there's nothing else to watch, I may or may not watch it. It's still one of those movies to me that, like, while I enjoyed it, I had fun watching it at the movies, I really have no desire to see this ever again, unless you do an extended cut.
I liked it enough that I might watch it again. I don't have a problem with the movie in general. It's really all the problems with the movie are the problems with the DC universe in general. But in itself, it's kind of entertaining, so I would probably watch it again.
Okay. And speaking of movies that we'll watch again, I saw this next movie 3 times already in the theater, and I'm still not sure how I feel about it. I thought I did. So the big elephant in the room here is Star Wars: The Last Jedi.
When I found you, I saw raw, untamed power. And beyond that, something truly special.
has always been there. But now it's awake. And I need help.
I've seen this raw strength only once before. It didn't scare me enough then. It does now.
I'm sure all of you listening here have already read countless articles, countless comment threads, countless tweets about Star Wars: The Last Jedi. How people are taking it really is really. This is something I never thought I would really see to kind of cap off 2017. Is kind of this infighting that's happening as far as Star Wars goes. The Force Awakens didn't have this. I mean, we had people that didn't like The Force Awakens thinking it was we talked about this when we did Force Awakens, the whole rehash of A New Hope thing. But to see the venom about Last Jedi, I don't think I was prepared for that. And it's funny because when I came out of Last Jedi, I'll just be real with you, man. When I came out of Last Jedi, I felt weird about it. Like, I didn't know exactly how I felt about the movie. Like, I was like, I know I need to see this again. I need to see this again, maybe 2 more times. Because I remember with Force Awakens, I did see it 3 times. But the thing with Force Awakens is that after the first viewing, I kind of had an idea of how I felt about it. And then the following 2 screenings kind of reinforced that. Here, I was not sure. Like, there was a lot of things I liked, a lot of things that I loved, a lot of things I didn't like, and a lot of things I hated. It was one of those just weird, like, kind of soup bowl or cauldron of emotions that I just kind of had to like figure out for myself. I don't think you had that problem. I think when we talked the next day after we both saw it Thursday night, and then when we talked the next day, I think you pretty much had it already kind of, nail on the head that you liked this movie. You liked the direction they went with it. You liked a lot of the stuff about it. There was some stuff obviously you didn't like, but for the most part, I believe you told me that you really, really liked this movie and the kind of the way it was not so much the just the direction itself that it was going, but how it was making all the fanboys mad. But before I kind of give you the floor on it, let me just tell everybody quickly. So Star Wars: The Last Jedi, written and directed by Rian Johnson. All your favorites from The Force Awakens are back. Daisy Ridley, John Boyega, Oscar Isaac, Adam Driver, Carrie Fisher in her final film performance, which was very emotional to watch. So as you probably can imagine, it takes place, I don't want to say literally, but maybe like close to literally the end of The Force Awakens. It starts off right, when the Force Awakens, the First Order kind of discovers the Resistance base and everybody's escaping. And on the same time on Ahch-To, you have Rey delivering Anakin Skywalker's lightsaber to Luke Skywalker on Ahch-To, which is where the original Jedi Temple is located. And that's pretty much all I'm going to say for now, because we'll get into spoilers in a little bit, but that's basically the plot summary that avoids spoilers. So I want to give you the floor a little bit, Adolfo, because like I kind of said already and kind of introing you and building you up, it seemed to me personally that you had it figured out from the first showing. I think you said one more time and it kind of reinforced that for you. For me,
actually I've only seen it the once.
It's a little different. You only saw it the once.
Yeah.
But see, so after the one time, you kind of already knew this was a great movie. So let's tell us a little bit about that.
Let's pump the brakes a little bit. I'm not saying it's a great movie. It's a good movie, in my opinion. It's not a great movie. It's not. It is, and I said this. It is not on the level to me of the original trilogy, and it's not on the level of Force Awakens. I'd put it around the level of Rogue One, which I also enjoyed, but I didn't love as much as those 4 films as well. I put it way above the prequels because I hate the prequels. So it's like in the middle, but above, but not like a C grade or anything. It's like a B. It's like a B movie. What I think is great is the direction that they're taking it in. Even though there's 2 ways I look at this film: as a film and as a Star Wars film. As a film, it's got problems. There's a lot of structural problems that I have that I have to deal with, that I have issues with, especially in the second act. But as a Star Wars movie, I really enjoyed it because there's a lot of things that are happening, and I want to get let me know when we get into spoilers. A lot of things that they're doing in this movie that have me excited for Episode 9, and I know the people that didn't like this movie and that hated this movie, like our friend over at Geekdom 101, This movie makes him not look forward to episode 9, and I'm completely opposite. This movie intrigues me so much, I can't wait for episode 9. So, now Force Awakens satisfied me so much that, yeah, I was looking forward to 8, but I wasn't, like, counting down the days. Like, I was like, yeah, Star Wars, that'll be fun. But I wasn't like, but I got my good Star Wars fix with Force Awakens. So when I went into Last Jedi, I was like, yeah, yeah, it's Star Wars, so it'll be fun. All right, yay. But now I'm really excited about 9 because I don't know what the hell they're doing, and it's exciting. So that's kind of my overall take on it. And if we can get into spoilers, whatever you say, but that's kind of how I feel about it. And to be fair, while it only took me one viewing to kind of get to this point, I did kind of sit with it for a while. So like after when the credits started, you know, and the music came up and you know the credits started rolling, I was like, I did kind of have a reaction to it, and I had to kind of sit with it like for a little while and just really think about it before I kind of came to that conclusion. So it is not perfect. But it certainly made me think, and it made me think in a good way. So that's how I feel.
Right. So like I said, I saw it the first time that Thursday night, that opening night. I saw it the second time at Alamo Drafthouse on the Saturday of the opening weekend. And then I went the next day to see the IMAX 3D, to an IMAX 3D screening on the Sunday. So by the time the weekend was over, I had already seen it 3 times. I will agree with you as far as technically, and I mean technically as a film, just a film, it has pacing problems that we're going to get into. And there's a big reason why it has pacing problems. We're going to get into that when we do spoilers. It seems like with the sequences we're going to talk about, those move. By the way, that whole storyline I did not like. I think you're in the same boat. I did not like that whole storyline. I think whenever the film cut back to the storyline and to these characters, it literally stopped the film dead for me. Because it's like, oh, I want to see what Rey's doing. I want to see what Luke's doing. I want to see what's going on over here with the with the First Order. No, we got to see these people doing pointless. It ended up being pointless shit. And it's like, you know, like to me, it just stops the movie there and it just kills the pacing. Once we get past that, it gets a little bit like that whole climactic sequence on Crate was freaking awesome. That all the visuals of that, just that entire battle, the way it was structured was really good. I had a lot of fun with that. The performances, I mean, dude, Mark Hamill is probably the best he's ever done. And I might be a little brazen to say this, but this is even counting his performances as the Joker in all those Batman movies. This is probably the best thing Mark Hamill's ever done as far as acting, as far as performing. He really absorbed that Luke Skywalker character. He really, even though he's gone on record saying he didn't like the direction that they took Luke Skywalker in this movie, he kind of got into character so much and absorbed all of that and kind of created this conflicted Luke Skywalker, this guy that's so down on himself. This guy that, you know, has been risen to legend status in the galaxy for what he did. He brought down the Emperor, he brought down Darth Vader, and yet what does he have to show for it? He's some old hermit living on Ahch-To. You know, it's like, you know, I mean, we'll get more into that when we get into like the spoilers, but you know, just to kind of see him kind of take that character and kind of, you know, kind of turn it on its head, and to see how, like, just even seeing the actor himself kind of embrace that. You know, it was really refreshing, and I had a lot of fun. He's definitely the MVP of this movie. You had, you know, Daisy Ridley was great here. Adam Driver was probably the second MVP here. His performance as Kylo Ren was freaking awesome too here. A lot of layers added to that character as well, and he's probably the most layered, the most probably complicated character, and the most fascinating character in this entire trilogy. And that's going to make his storyline going into Episode 9 all the more, you know, must see. And before we get into spoilers, I think that's pretty much it. You know, the movie itself, you know, like any Star Wars movie, great special effects. You know, all that was great. Especially the sequence on Crate was freaking awesome. You know, Mark Hamill, Adam Driver, freaking awesome. As were everybody else, especially Carrie Fisher, which, like I already alluded to, seeing her there, you know, knowing this is her last role ever, was very emotional. Like when she first showed up on screen, it got a lot of applause during the Thursday night screening. And, you know, it got me a little bit because I knew this was going to be it for her. So, you know, she was absolutely amazing here. And, That's pretty much my take on it. As a movie itself, like it has problems, specifically pacing problems, but overall, like it was a fun movie. It was a great time at the movie, just like Thor was, just like Justice League was, and I had a great time with it. But now we can get into spoilers. So
Okay.
well, we were loaded. So if you haven't seen it yet, I mean, it's been a month. Anybody who's probably wanted to see it has already done it by now. But I know there's people out there, for whatever reason, haven't gone around to the theater. So if you still want to see it, don't want to know any spoilers, I would click off now. So I'll give you like 2 seconds. Okay. So Canto Bite sucks, man. I
Okay.
hate that sequence.
All right. So before we go too far, I want to say I just want to slightly correct you on one thing. You said that Mark Hamill went on record as saying that he didn't like the direction the character was taking, but that has been taken out of context a lot. If you watch the entire clip, he says that he expressed his doubts and that he did not like the character, the way that they were treating the character to Rian Johnson. But then the clip continues, and he says, "But I think what he did is very good, and I like the direction that they're. Now I understand what he's doing, and even though it's not my Luke Skywalker, it worked for this film." So, like, people keep cutting that part out of it and just focusing. The people who hate this movie are only focusing on that part and, like, trying to make it seem like Mark Rebel hates it like the rest of us, and that's not fucking true. Like, it's not. Like, people need to stop doing that. People need to see the whole clip in its context, and that's what he actually says. He does say he has doubts about the character. He does say he didn't initially like it, but then he said he trusted Rian Johnson with the way the direction the film was going. So, I kind of wanted to get that out there before all the fanboys got on Twitter and started, like, typing, like, "See, no, Mark Hamill hates this movie. It sucks," because they're fucking retarded.
Right.
And here's the thing about this. Before we get too much, there has been an unreasonable amount of fanboy hate for this film, to the point where it's like, fucking settle down, people. Like, I love Star Wars too, but relax. They did not ruin your childhood by doing this. I respect if you don't like the movie. I'm not saying you don't have a right to not like the movie. You have every right to not like the movie. There's a lot not to like. I get it. I get all the reasons, I get that you don't like the direction they took Luke Skywalker in. I get that you don't like that they didn't answer the stuff about Snoke. I get that you don't like the Canto Bite sequence. I get all of that. But the hatred, the pure hatred that's coming out of people for this is absurd. It's so silly. Like, I did not see this kind of hatred for fucking prequels, let alone Last Jedi. Like it's ridiculous the amount of hate I've seen for it. But yeah, let's go to Canto Bite real quick. This is my main issue with this film, is that the sequence itself, the concept of the sequence is fine, but the execution of the sequence is bad. That whole second act needed some editing. It was really long. It ultimately served no purpose for the story. Right. And I don't have a problem with the Rose character at all, but I thought that actress, Kelly Tran, and John Boyega did not have any chemistry with each other. So their scenes with each other didn't really work for me. Now, that's not the fault of either one of those actors. They're perfectly fine actors on their own, but when they were together, they just didn't click for me. And the movie really wanted them to click for you, and I just didn't buy it. Whenever especially at the end, whenever she saves him and she's like, "Oh, because I love you," and blah blah blah. It's like, it didn't work for me. And I absolutely agree with that criticism. That sequence is bad. I like the idea of it. I like the idea of like a casino planet, where there's arms dealers and stuff like that, and having to go find someone and get on a mission. That's a cool concept. It was just executed really poorly. So I'm with everybody on that. The second act was bad. Benicio del Toro's character, unless he's coming back in future movies, it seems kind of like a waste. Like, oh, so he's just a dickhead. Like, he just fucked him over anyway. Okay. Like, it just didn't seem like it didn't. Like, what was the point of his character? Like, I honestly thought that what we were going to get was the reveal of Benicio's character was like, oh, you thought you were going to go get that one guy, but this is the guy that you were really supposed to be getting all along. And then it ended up not being that at all, and it just ended up being that, yeah, he's just a dick that screwed them over for money. And then that's it. Right. Like, that character seemed kind of like a waste, and he also brought, like, it felt like he was he's just redoing his role from Usual Suspects, but in space. Like with
Nice.
the verbal tics and stuff like that. I was just like, that was a little annoying. So again, I'm with people on that. I didn't like the freaking. They're not tauntauns, but whatever the fuck they were that were like they were racing on. I think they looked really lame, like these CGI things that didn't look like they were really there. I didn't like those at all. So that whole sequence, absolutely agree, that was bad. It should have been. That was not very well executed, and it dragged. It needed some editing. Those two actors did not have any chemistry at all.
Yeah, that whole sequence, like I said, it stopped the film dead for me because it's like, okay, they're trying to find this code breaker, right? And they stopped to look at those animal things. Like, I was gonna call them alpacas, but they're not alpacas. They call them something weird.
They look kind of like shaven tauntauns. That's what they look like.
Yeah, something like that. And then they went.
They should have just used tauntauns. Like they already have tauntauns in that universe.
Just use tauntauns. And it went to this whole side plot about animal cruelty and about like the people that fund the wars and all that, and it was like, okay, that's cool and all that, but it's like, but I don't care about that right now. I just want to see what's going on with the with Rey. I want to see what's going on with the resistance. And you're talking to me about this, like, I get they were trying to like give us like a bigger message about animal cruelty and about who funds wars, that it's the shades of gray, but still it's like it seems so out of place during this overall story,
to me, it did feel out of place, and it also felt like, oh, we wrote something for Rey to do, we wrote something for Poe to do, we wrote something for Leia to do, we wrote something for Luke to do. We don't have anything for John Boyega to do. Oh, here, we'll do this. Like, that's kind of what it felt like. It felt like it just felt tacked on, and like they had nothing. They had nothing else for him to do, so they made this whole plot line. And I think that on the surface, like the Rose character is fine. I kind of like that character, but she really serves no purpose. Like, why did they even create her? Like it doesn't make, like, I thought the Rose character, because I didn't know what she looked like, right? I knew that there was going to be an Asian American woman that's going to be in the movie, and I thought it was that girl at the beginning that ended up being her sister, who dropped the bombs on the Dreadnought, right? But then she dies, and I was like, oh, I guess it's not her. And then we see Rose. I'm like, oh, it's her sister. I get it. But, and I'm not being racist. I honestly didn't know what the actress looked like, so I just assumed that was the Asian actress. So I just don't know. I just feel like she had no real purpose to exist in the film. Like that, I don't see why they made her a character, because she didn't really do anything. That whole mission was pointless because they didn't accomplish what they needed to accomplish.
Exactly. And somebody pointed this out, to cut you off, but somebody pointed this out too. They were like, if the whole plan to escape was for them to put on the cloaking device and fly to Crate, them going on that mission actually hurt that plan, because they ended up getting backstabbed and they ended up blowing up all those ships that were on the way to Crate. So had they not gone, they probably could have been able to slip off and go into Crate without being noticed by the First Order. So that makes their plan completely pointless and detrimental to the Resistance. Like when somebody pointed that out, I was like, "Holy crap! You're absolutely right." Like that even makes it make even less sense than I thought before.
Right, and that whole sequence is bad. Now let's talk about some of the more controversial things that this movie pulled off. What do you want to start with?
Well, I mean, let me just start off first by kind of making a bigger point and then kind of branching off into like the little specifics here. The thing with me personally is that after seeing it the third time, and I really thought about it, to me it was like, it felt like they tried to cram like two movies into one. I felt that a lot of the stuff that happened was probably, now again, poo-poo on me for having expectations. I expected the whole Snoke thing to happen in 9, just like it happened in 6 with Luke or Return of the Jedi. I was going into that because I kind of Star Wars kind of trained me to expect that to happen in the final film of the trilogy. No, it happened here. So that took me really off guard, and that was one of the things that I really didn't like. I mean, I know you have no problem with it, which we're going to get to in a bit, but I really didn't like that. And that was that was one of the things that I came off. I was like, this was stupid, and but that kind of goes to my overall point that, in the end, it really felt like Act 3 instead of Act 2. And now that's a good and bad thing. Now it's bad for me, like I said, we're gonna go into like, what I didn't like about it and how it kind of felt like it was a little bit rushed. But the good thing about it, and you alluded to this before, is that now what the fuck are they gonna do in 9? Last Jedi left so many things kind of either resolved already, quote unquote resolved, or just so up in the air that we don't know where it's gonna what is like episode 9 gonna even start? Is it gonna start a year later, 2 years later, the next day? Like, how are they even gonna start the story off as opposed to, what the end game is? So in that sense, yeah, it is kind of exciting because you don't know what the fuck they're gonna do. But, me personally, them kind of rushing all this stuff, it seemed a little out of whack for me. But we can talk about the Snoke thing first because I just mentioned it, but you love the Snoke thing.
I love the Snoke thing. It was fantastic. I cheered when it happened. Not because it was like a lot of people cheered when it happened because it was a cool moment. He turned the lightsaber around, but then I could feel like the sense of dread around every fanboy around me. Like, wait a minute, he's dead. But like to me, I was like, fucking yeah, he's dead. First of all, I hate the Snoke character. I thought he was stupid. I didn't like him in Force Awakens. I don't know. I don't remember what we talked about on our Force Awakens podcast. I don't know. I don't remember if I said somebody can go back and check if I said if I liked him or didn't like him. But I've never liked that character. I think he's dumb. I thought he was an Emperor ripoff, and I had no really interest in his backstory. And I know, and here's the thing. So I'm not going to disparage everybody here when I say this, because this movie kind of reminds me of Ghostbusters 2016 in a weird way. Because, and I'll tell you why. When we reviewed Ghostbusters 2016, we made the point of saying, yes, not everybody who hates the film were misogynist douchebags. But there are a lot of misogynist douchebags that hate the film. So when I say this, I'm not saying that everyone who hates the film is like this, but a lot of people were like this. And what I'm talking about is the people who for years have been speculating and about what could be going on with Snoke, what's Rey's parentage, what's doing this, all this stuff, and then this movie totally throws out all that away, and they got so butthurt about it. Now, I'm not saying that everyone who hated the movie doesn't have legitimate reasons not to like it, but those people that overly speculated to the point where like they like did every possible amount of research they could find. I think that's where a lot of the hate comes from. Now, again, I'm not saying everyone who hates the movie is like that, but a lot of the people who hate the movie are like that. And that's kind of where I see it. Like, people put so much stock into finding out who Snoke was, and then that was all thrown away. To me, I can see as a filmmaker and as a Star Wars fan, yeah, that would be frustrating. But honestly, because A, I didn't like the character at all, and B, because it's much more exciting this way, I like that they totally threw that swerve in. Because to me, he was always an Emperor ripoff. And the way it was going, it seemed like it was going to come down to the last movie being Rey trying to turn Kylo from the dark side while Snoke laughed in the background, then him and ultimately dying. Which is exactly what happens at the end of Return of the Jedi, which I've already seen. Why would I need to see that again? I don't need to see that story again. We already got it done and told well in Return of the Jedi. Why do I need to see that again? But they totally fucked you because everyone was expecting that. And they fucked you by doing it in the second episode of this trilogy and totally throwing away all speculation you had about the character. Now, here's the thing. When you watch Return of the Jedi for the first time, years before the prequels came out, you had no idea who the fuck the Emperor was either. So why are people getting so upset about Snoke? See what I'm saying? Like, you saw one cameo of the Emperor in Empire, and then you saw him as a character in Return of the Jedi, and you never got a backstory from him until 15 years later. But people weren't upset about it whenever he got killed. So why are people upset about Snoke getting killed now? Honestly,
that's a fair point.
Why were people so upset about it? You never knew anything about the Emperor until well after Jedi. So why? Like, to me, his backstory isn't that important. He was like he was an Emperor ripoff. He was totally an Emperor ripoff. I don't care what anybody says. He was doing everything the Emperor did, and he ended up getting killed the same way the Emperor did. So why is everyone so upset about it?
I know that. I mean. Yeah, I kind of hated it when it happened. I've come around to it. I've accepted it. Okay, if this is how it's going to go, I mean, it is what it is at this point. And I kind of taken a different spin on it, too, when really thinking about it. Like, like the Snoke thing bothered me for a long time. And then it wasn't until I forgot what article I read, or maybe I was talking to somebody, but it kind of made peace with it for the fact that I kind of saw it in a different way. Yeah, Snoke really didn't do much in either of these two films. And that's kind of at the heart of what maybe me and a lot of people are mad at, is that, The Force Awakens kind of builds this guy up as this mysterious character, this mysterious leader that, has this ominous kind of, presence, backstory, that has to do in some way with Luke Skywalker because he keeps obsessing over him, Here he just kind of plays, the Emperor from Return of the Jedi, and subsequently gets sliced in half, which was, which it caught everybody off guard when that happened. So the way I saw it at first was, okay, you introduced this mysterious guy who's kind of cool. To me, he was kind of cool. This mysterious guy, this mysterious leader in Force Awakens, who's going to be the big baddie. He must be like this, I mean, they didn't say what he was, whether he was a Sith or whatever, but like, he has something that makes him the supreme leader. He's powerful to an extent that, he made the First Order rise and all that, right? And here he basically shows little to nothing of that in The Last Jedi and is subsequently sliced in half. The way I kind of see it now is that this was necessary to kind of throw a little bit of a wrench into what we're used to in Star Wars. Like you said already with Return of the Jedi, Luke fought Vader, Luke redeemed Vader, the Emperor tried to kill Luke, Darth Vader kills the Emperor, So that's what happened at the end of that trilogy. Here, you kind of put a wrench in all that because you have Kylo Ren doing it, right? Like just like with Jedi, Darth Vader killed the Emperor. Here, Kylo Ren kills Snoke, which was cool because it happened earlier than people thought it would. You kind of see it as, okay, when this first happens, you think, oh, Kylo Ren's been redeemed because Vader was redeemed after he killed the Emperor. Is Kylo Ren now on Rey's side? And then, by the way, I don't think we talked about this yet, but that fight with the Praetorian Guards, fucking awesome.
Yeah,
that
I
was
love that fight.
probably
That was
one of my
fight.
favorite sequences of that movie.
My favorite moment is whenever Kylo is like being choked from behind or whatever, and then Rey like throws him the lightsaber and he catches it and activates it right to the dude's face. It's fucking awesome. Absolutely,
it was just absolutely great sequence. One of the major highlights of the movie. But here's what my point is alluding to. So you think Kylo Ren's on Rey's side now? So they fight the Praetorian Guards, they kick their asses, and then afterwards he's like, "Fuck them." That's what it essentially said. Fuck them. Fuck the Resistance. Fuck the First Order. Join me. The two of us are gonna clean house in the galaxy. So Kylo Ren essentially did a 360-degree turn, bro. So he went from bad to good to bad again in the span of like 5 to 10 minutes. And now you have this character that, to me, is probably the most fascinating character here because, yeah, he killed Snoke, but it's not because he was a good guy, because he wanted to be the supreme leader. Now he's the one in charge of the First Order. So he consolidated all that power, and now he's the head honcho. He's the guy in charge, and now he's the one who's going to take on the Resistance and crush them and take over the galaxy. So he didn't do it because he was a good guy. He did it out of ambition. He wanted to be the leader, and he killed Snoke. And it doesn't help you that Snoke was kind of being a dick to him regardless. But he didn't do it out of this, coming to the light side. He did it because he wanted to be the leader. And when I saw it that way, I was like, when you put it that way, it makes everything fall into place a little better, and it kind of makes the Snoke thing for me personally easier to swallow. So I've come around on the Snoke thing, even though I kind of still do hate it. But when I kind of hear that reasoning and that logic behind it, it's easier to take.
See,
what did you think about that?
See, I like that. I liked it immediately because of that reason. Because in Force Awakens, we got Snoke, Kylo, and Hux, and it basically mirrored Emperor, Vader, and Grand Moff Tarkin. And I was like, okay, it's familiar, but whatever. This movie's the nostalgia run. Now this time we still had it. We had it again, and I was like, all right, whatever. But when they killed Snoke, first of all, it made me happy because it's so unexpected, and now I don't know what they're doing with it. But B, because now it makes Kylo the main heel, and he always should have been the main heel from the beginning. Like, Snoke never should have even been in the movie. Like, I'm glad that they killed him off. Now, that said, I would not put it past the producers to bring, like, Snoke back as, like, a clone or a ghost or whatever the fuck in the next movie. He could always come back. I mean, you know, people die, but they don't always die in Star Wars movies, right? So, like, we saw fucking Yoda in this movie, for Christ's sake. So, you know, I don't put it past the producers to do that. I hope they don't. But, it clears the path for Kylo to become the main villain, which he always should have been, because he's the most interesting character they have as far as the villains go. And it kind of reinforces the kind of tense relationship he has with Hux, who is also power hungry and wants to be in charge as well. So to me, that is much more interesting than another Emperor Vader storyline. Which is why I enjoyed the twist. So, you know, now one thing I will say, kind of leading away from this, that another criticism I have of the film, which we didn't get into before, was I hate that once again that they treated Captain Phasma like a jobber. Captain Phasma is the Boba Fett of this series, in that it is a cool looking character that gets killed off way too easily. Like, it happens the second movie in a row. Like, she gets killed off, like, she didn't get killed off in the first movie, but like she gets written off pretty easily. And in this one, she gets like maybe 3 minutes of being awesome, and then she gets killed again. It's like, really, we can't have her just be like a badass. Can't we just have her be like Finn's nemesis? Like, that's what Finn's story should have been in this movie. It should have been him going up against Phasma for like the whole movie. That's what his story should have been. But instead, we get like 3 minutes of her, and then she falls in a fire. That's fucking lame. Like, I will totally side with the fanboys on that. That was lame. I hated that.
Yes, I hated the whole Phasma thing. You know, even when we talked about it during the Force Awakens review, I said, you know, they kind of hyped her up throughout this whole campaign, this whole marketing. You know, Phasma, the cool looking, stormtrooper, and she got like barely 10 minutes of screen time, and was, like you said, written off pretty quickly. You know, here she shows up for like, I think probably 5 minutes total, and she's dead now. And it's like, come on, bro, really?
Honestly,
like,
she should be the henchman. She should be if they want to do a 3-person power structure, it should be Kylo, Hux, and then Phasma. You know, and then Phasma being like Phasma should be. You know what Phasma should be? She should be the Bond henchman. Every Bond movie has a formula. There's the ultimate bad guy, like Goldfinger or Dr. No, and then there's the henchman that's there the whole movie, like Batista was in Spectre. Where they pose a threat throughout the whole movie, and they eventually get killed off by the hero, but they are one of the more memorable parts of the movie, like Oddjob in Goldfinger, for example. That's what she should be. That's the role she should be. But instead, she like has 1 or 2 scenes and gets killed, and I think that sucks. Like that, I will totally agree with people on. They should handle her better. And honestly, instead of Canto Bight, they should have replaced his story with him dealing with Phasma, because he still has issues with her from the last movie. That's something that still needs to be resolved. Like that was a cool story to follow, but instead they did what they did, and that I will totally agree was lame.
Absolutely, yeah, that was very lame. Another thing that a lot of people are bringing up is the thing with Rey and Rey's parents, who apparently do not matter. So they kind of built in the Force Awakens. They kind of built. It seems like they kind of crafted it in a way where we're supposed to wonder who Rey's parents are, right? And that was done. It seems like it was done. That was done deliberately. Rian Johnson takes over, and he tells us doesn't matter. You know, Rey's parents were junk dealers. They're dead in a ditch somewhere on Jakku. It doesn't matter who they are. You know, this didn't bother me as much as the Snoke thing did. But it was kind of a weird, like it seemed very swervish, you know, like, okay, we made you think this was important in The Force Awakens, and now we're telling you, oh, by the way, that doesn't matter, you know. In that sense, I was taken aback by it as well. Like I said, it didn't piss me off as much as the Snoke thing did initially, but it was something that I kind of came away with thinking that's kind of not right. But thinking about it more, especially after the subsequent viewings, I mean, isn't that kind of the essence of Star Wars? It's not it's a whole galaxy full of people. It's not going to revolve around this one family with this one special blood that connects to the Force. Anakin Skywalker started out like that. It kind of I think the whole thing with Rey kind of alludes to Anakin, the way he started as a kid. He didn't have famous Force sensitive parents. He was just Force sensitive. It's about, I guess, the Force just picking and choosing, who's going to have, that special, I guess, ability, that special talent.
Yeah, we've had 6 movies of fucking Skywalkers. Enough with the Skywalkers. Like, there's a big fucking galaxy. The Force doesn't just choose Skywalkers. Like, I'm so happy they did that. That was a great twist, because people thought, oh, she's Luke's daughter, oh, she's Ben Kenobi's daughter. I even saw people thinking that she was now I'm blanking. Fuck, never mind. Doesn't matter. I saw people thinking she's somebody else's daughter, right? And at the end of the day, it doesn't matter, because why do we need to have it be someone's daughter? Like, we already have Ben Solo. Do we need somebody else in there? It doesn't, I'm glad that it's a nobody. And they did that, that was purposeful, and they alluded to that with her, like you said, kind of mirroring Anakin, but also with as you call him, the kid with the broom at the end, being that
kid with the fucking broom, bro.
Luke, Luke lit the fire again, right? And now the more Force sensitive people are going to be coming out of the woodwork now. And I'm glad that one of the most powerful natural Jedi isn't another Skywalker. I'm glad that this is just a nobody that nobody cares about. That it just happened to be this random girl, and that's fantastic to me.
And then kind of the way that Kylo Ren, in that whole speech where he revealed that, he kind of turned that on its head as well, where he said to her, when he said, your parents are dead in the ditch on Jakku, like, you don't belong here. This story isn't about you. You're nothing. Like, this, none of this concerns you. And the way he kind of said it, just kind of being like a dick, it was a great performance, by the way, by Adam Driver. But it kind of spoke to the whole, if you're a nobody, you don't belong, like, the galaxy doesn't revolve around you because you're nobody, and as we're probably going to see in the next film, that's not going to be the case at all, because the subsequent battles between the rebellion, I guess we're calling the rebellion again, and the First Order is going to be fought by these nobodies. Because think about it for a minute. By the end of this movie, the First Order has maybe a third of their army left that they started with. The Resistance has nobody. They have 5 people left in the Resistance. So there's going to be quite a bit of a building up of these armies between 8 and 9. And if that final sequence with the kid with the fucking broom is any indication, the battle's going to be fought by a lot of these quote-unquote nobodies, these people that are kind of just out there, just waiting to be discovered and a lot of them have these Force-sensitive powers, so the future of the galaxy is going to depend, ironically enough, on these nobodies. So when you kind of think about it like that, I kind of like the what they did. And it all started with the Rey thing, that, she's a nobody. And it kind of speaks to, okay, it's a galaxy much bigger than just the Skywalkers, and we want to explore every inch of it. So I kind of dig what they're doing. Like I said, at the beginning, I was taken aback by it. I kind of didn't like it. But now that it's been explained a little better, I'm kind of digging it now. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, I'm glad that they went this way. I always thought, I would have been fine if it would have been Luke's daughter or Ben Kenobi's daughter or whoever. I would have been fine with it. I would have dealt with it. I would have been like, okay, that's fine. But I am much more excited about this being no, this is a new character. She has no connection to anybody. She's Rey, and that's all she is, and I think that's awesome.
Couple other things before we move on, though. Just a couple more of the main criticisms that I've been seeing, kind of prominently online. The first one has to do with Poe. Do you think Poe's a sexist?
No, I don't think he's a sexist.
That's the big argument I've been seeing from the.
No, he's just
that they made him purposely misogynistic because Holdo is a female and he doesn't take orders from a female. Yet Leia is a female. So,
no, I don't think he's sexist. What it is, his whole storyline in this movie was about following, about how sometimes he can't just go in and shoot shit up. Sometimes you have to follow orders. Sometimes you have to strategize, and sometimes you have to make a plan instead of blowing shit up. Now, it just so happens that the people in command through probably a very deliberate attempt to like empower more women. I'm not going to deny that that was probably a deliberate thing to be like, let's make all the leaders women. Because of the fact that they were women and he went up against them, it might seem like he's being misogynist, but I don't think that was what they intended at all. No, that's ridiculous.
Right, but that's one of the criticisms that I've been seeing on Twitter, that they made him purposely misogynistic. It's an F you to white males.
No,
like, okay,
he's not white. He's fucking Latino. If people are calling him white, they're fucking stupid. Oscar,
pull it back a little bit there, guys.
Jesus Christ.
It's Ghostbusters all over again, but whatever. And then the final thing, which is not much of a, like, I guess, storytelling controversy as much as it is kind of like something weird. Super Leia. So
all right, that was a little silly, but I didn't hate it. People blew that out of proportion. I didn't hate that. That was fine.
It was weird. I'll admit that. It was very weird to kind of just see that out of the blue, but it was like, you know what? Star Wars kind of with every film, I think we get a better understanding of the Force and what people could do with it. And if Rian Johnson wants to say, okay, well, if you're in space, the Force can kind of make you fly back to your ship or something. It's whatever. It's just kind of an expanding of the mythology to me.
I mean, it's not flying. It's not flying. The Force has always been able to have people be able to move things with their mind. She was just moving herself with her mind. She wasn't flying like Superman. She was moving. She was using, call it telekinesis, whatever you want to call it. She was using the Force to move her body towards the spaceship. Like that. Yeah, did it look silly? Yes, it looked silly. No one's denying that, but people are blowing that way out of proportion.
Yeah, of the other things that we talked about, this is probably one of the sillier ones. Like, I think the Snoke thing had more validity. I think even the Rey thing had more validity than this.
Well,
this was just kind of weird.
Luke, though.
What's that?
We still haven't talked about Luke. That's the one a lot of people are pissed off.
Yes, that's the main one. So I think probably the one that people are pissed off about the most is probably the whole Luke thing. So in short, kind of like I alluded to in the intro of this episode, this movie destroyed the character of Luke Skywalker. I don't think that's the case at all. In fact, that's probably the Luke character is probably one of the things that after the first viewing I was okay with how they did Luke. Like I already said when I was talking about, the film earlier, I said, here's a guy who's been risen to legend status, this character, Luke Skywalker. And in the 30 plus years or whatever it is since Return of the Jedi, he's basically had nothing to show for it. And the fact that, and during that time, he's kind of come to see, himself and everything he stood for as nothing but, the purveyor or like the cause of all the galaxy's problems, which is a way like, one of the things that I called this movie after I first saw it, and this is something that I told our buddy Big D, Geekdom 101. If there's one word I can use to describe this movie, it's ballsy. And it's ballsy because it literally takes everything that you've known about Star Wars, pours gasoline on it, and lights a match on it. It's just, so the Jedi are like, the Jedi suck. The Jedi are these like freaking buffoons that let all this shit happen. And what's funny is he's right though. If you go back to the prequels, and we're supposed to treat the prequels as canon, the Jedi are fucking idiots in those movies, So it's like he's not wrong, which is what makes all of this so funny.
Yeah, and I mean, but let me tell you, by having Yoda come back and destroy that tree with all the fucking books in it, was a very deliberate call out to saying, hey, by the way, we're playing with a new set of rules here. Like, I absolutely believe that. I think what people are mostly pissed off about is that they think that he's this cranky old bastard and that he is a coward and all this other stuff. And first of all, I don't think he's a coward. But second of all, I do think that he is, he's pissed off. He's a cranky old man, but that is much more interesting than like having him come back and be fucking Obi-Wan Kenobi. Like, we've already have an Obi-Wan Kenobi. Like, that's the thing. Force Awakens was our nostalgia. Like, that movie mirrored New Hope in a lot of ways. It gave us a lot of our old characters back. It gave us some new characters. It mirrored a lot of the plot lines and the stuff. It was a good nostalgic. Hey, we're back in the universe. Do I want to see more of that nostalgia? No, I want like something new. Now I want you to take me into a direction where I don't know where we're going. And like to have Luke come back as fucking Obi-Wan, like the wise old Jedi who knows what he's doing and teaches the young brash Jedi and blah blah. Like we've seen that before. We've fucking seen it before. Like, I much prefer this version of Luke, who, after 20 or 30 years, or however long it's been that he's been an outcast, has turned into this jaded old man because he perceives that he fucking failed. And he doesn't want to continue fucking things up. And that makes it, like, that's a much more interesting character trait. And by the way, he redeems himself at the end of the movie. So, like, to me, like, he's not a coward. He's someone who has a conflict. And people with conflicts are much more interesting characters than characters who know all.
Right. And I think probably the biggest complaint about the whole thing with Luke is the sequence with the flashback with him and Kylo Ren. So the fact that, you know, he even thought about killing Kylo Ren pissed off a lot of people. That's not Luke. He would never do that. Why would he even consider killing, his own,
Yes, he would. He considered killing his own dad. Like, did people not watch Return of the Jedi? Like, the dark side took, like, the dark side kind of, what's the word I'm looking? Not took him over, but influenced him so much at the Return of the Jedi that his anger overtook him, and he, like, almost killed his father. Actually, he kicked his father's ass so badly that he drove him to the point of death. So Luke absolutely would give in to his anger and his doubt and his fears. Like, he's not perfect. Yes, at the end of Jedi, he throws that away and he goes, no, this isn't right. I'm not going to kill my father. This is not how we should do things, blah, blah, blah. But that doesn't mean that he's going to be 100% good and true for the rest of his life. That if a character doesn't have conflict, if a character doesn't have doubts, then they're a boring character. So yes, Luke has done that before. He did give into the dark side, and that was all that was him momentarily giving into the dark side, but ultimately deciding, no, I'm not going to do that. So people who, like, I don't know, but of course, like, come on.
Right. And it was very momentary, and to me, it spoke to kind of the humanity of it all, because Luke is this, Jedi master, but he's also a human, and humans make mistakes, and humans slip up all the time. So, to me, that wasn't so much, a bad thing, because it kind of just spoke to his humanity, and that, he can be tempted from time to time, because he is human, to do the wrong thing. But as he said himself when he was recounting the story, it was a momentary slip up. I went back on it almost immediately, but by that time he thought I was going to do something to him because he had woken up, and then the rest was history at that point. But, just that momentary slip up kind of caused the whole thing to, collapse on him, as far as, like, the new Jedi Order that he was planning and all that. So it was because of that little 1 second slip up ended up dominoing to this whole thing for him. Which is an interesting story.
Yeah, and the other thing that people are annoyed about is that, he didn't actually fight Kylo at the end. He was just projecting, and then he dies, and now he's dead. And it's like, well, first of all, I actually prefer that he was doing the force projection thing as opposed to actually him going physically to the planet to do that, because he was serving a purpose. He was there to distract the First Order, and so that to allow the other people to escape. And second of all, if he would have gone to the planet and fought on, like, hand to hand with Kylo Ren, that could have been cool. But what it also could have been? It could have been, because here's the thing. Here's the reality of the situation is that while Luke Skywalker's a Jedi Master and Kylo Ren is a Jedi Master, or a Sith Master, whatever the fuck you want to call them, Knights of Ren or whatever, they both should be Master lightsaber fighters. The reality of the situation is you have, like, a 20-something Adam Driver and a 60-something Mark Hamill. Mark Hamill in no way can physically act in the same, have the same kind of sword fight that Adam Driver could have. So that if they did an actual badass lightsaber fight, that it would have to be significantly CG'd. Now, as it was, there was already some CG in what they ended up doing, but not to the effect as if they would have had, like, a frickin', like, one with Obi-Wan and Anakin at the end of Episode 3. So the last thing I would have wanted to see is a fucking digital Mark Hamill flipping around like a cartoon. That would have been terrible. So I much prefer, like, the whole thing that they did, where he was just kind of avoiding all the blows and everything, and then finally revealing that he was a projection, because it accomplished that he is it makes him actually much bigger of a badass because look what he can fucking do. He can project himself halfway across the galaxy and make you believe that he's actually there. And secondly, he's a hero that helped not the rebellion, the resistance, the resistance escape. So, and then him dying at the end. He died in front of 2 fucking suns setting. Like, that's fucking beautiful. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
It fucking mirrors A New Hope. Like, that's a beautiful way to end that character. And by the way, come on. You don't think he's going to come back as a Force Ghost? He's going to come back as a fucking Force Ghost. Give me a break. If Yoda fucking came back, he's going to come back and, like, talk Kylo out of doing stupid shit or something. I don't know. But he'll be back in 9. You know he will. Don't get all pissy that he's dead. I understand people getting pissy that Han Solo died because he's not a Jedi. He can't come back. But fucking Mark Hamill is the most powerful Jedi in the universe. I think he can handle becoming a Force Ghost and coming back.
Right, and I mean just his final line in the movie just was oozing with charisma and badassery.
Oh, see you around, kid.
Kylo Ren. Yes, that whole, because it started off when he was telling him, everything you said in that sentence was wrong, which alluded to what he said to Rey earlier, which was hilarious. And then he goes, the rebellion is reborn today. The war is just beginning, and I will not be the last Jedi. When he said that, everybody, in all 3 screens, when he said that, everybody clapped, bro.
Yeah.
That was such a great line. And then when he said, see you around, kid, which alluded to Han Solo, that was it, bro. What a way for that character to go out, bro. That was freaking awesome. That's one thing that I don't agree with as far as, the whole sequence on Crate with Luke. Well, I thought it was great, man. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I love that
people are saying, if he was going to die anyway, why not he just die in person? Well, he wouldn't have survived the AT-ATs getting shot by them 8,000 billion times. So some distraction he would have been to, like, help the resistance escape. So the projection thing kind of helps his cause. Because, since you don't know he's a projection yet, it makes you seem like, he used the Force to, like, deflect the lasers and whatnot. It makes him even more of a badass. And then when you find out that he's actually a projection, it makes him even more of a badass than that. So...
Yeah, I love that whole sequence. I mean, we've seen how many lightsaber fights have we seen in these series? Like for them to do that at the end as instead of a lightsaber fight, but to do because the epic lightsaber fight was in the middle of the movie instead of the end of the movie in this movie, right? And instead of ending it with a lightsaber fight, they teased you with one, and then they didn't really deliver it. They gave you something better. Like that was so cool. Like that to me makes him a more badass Jedi than any fucking Jedi we've seen on screen so far. From fucking Ben Kenobi to Darth Vader to Yoda, that was the coolest fucking thing I've seen a Jedi do.
And you know what? I haven't really talked in depth about this in a while, about this movie. This conversation actually helped me out a little because in the end, when I was doing my review for Last Jedi, I said in the end it was okay. I think it's a good movie now.
No,
I'm going up from okay to good because
I brought you over to the dark side.
A lot of this stuff, when you talk about it, like it starts making sense, and yeah, the Canto Bite thing still sucks. The Phasma thing still sucks. But a lot of the other stuff, when you talk about it and you kind of think to yourself, oh, that's what they're going for, when it's explained, I okay. Now I get it. So a lot of the other stuff was easier to swallow now. So now I'm upgrading. I'm going from okay, I'm going to good now. This is a good movie.
I do want to touch on 2 more things because we didn't mention them, and I know these are 2 things that people brought up before we kind of end on our discussion on them. One is a negative, and this is something that I absolutely agree with you on, is the giant plot hole of them not addressing the fact that R2 left a map to find him. And then when Ray gets there, he's like, "Why are you here?" So that is kind of a huge plot hole. They should that is it does seem like they just completely forgot about that element and everything because that was something that they had in Force Awakens that wasn't even addressed here, and it's well, why was it even there to begin with, right? So I will give you that. The other one is what people are mockingly calling the OJ chase scene, which I get it. It's funny. It's a funny line, but it was funny the first.
I actually never heard that, so now...
Oh, really? Because I've heard it 1,700 times, and I was going to say it was funny the first 3 times I heard it, and it's gotten less funny since then. It's a funny line, I get it. But, again, much like we've seen epic space battles before, and we got an epic space battle at the beginning of the movie, which was awesome. We haven't seen something like this before, and yeah, you might think it's not very exciting, I get it, fine, but it was at least different, and the payoff was awesome. That payoff is something you've never seen in a Star Wars movie. The fucking ramming the ship with light speed into another ship. That was fucking brilliant. I never would have... And whenever she started, because I got it, 2 seconds before they did it, I was like, wait a minute. And then they did, and I was like, are they going to do that? And then she started turning the ship around, like, oh my god, this is going to be so awesome. And then she, rammed the fucking ship at light speed. That was amazing. That was one of the coolest things I've ever seen in a Star Wars movie. So, I don't... If the payoff was getting that cool-ass light speed ram was... The build-up was that OJ chase scene. I'm fine with it because we get an awesome payoff to it.
Did you read that article about how people thought that sequence there was a glitch in the audio because it went silent? That was pretty funny.
It doesn't surprise me because
people are stupid. Oh man, I just read that last week. That article where they were talking about how that the theaters have to put signs saying that at 1 hour and 57 minutes there is a sequence where there is no sound. It is part of the movie for dramatic effect and it is not a glitch or whatever it says. I'm like, really, people? Really? Yeah. Oh my god. But yeah. So, Last Jedi, like I said, I went into this this recording here today, thinking it's an okay movie. I've upgraded to good now. Talking about it helps. And I think a lot of this stuff now goes down a lot easier. A lot of this stuff makes sense to me a little better. So, fuck it. It's a good movie. It's a good Star Wars movie. The Can't Nobody stuff still sucks. And, Mark Hamill, Adam Driver are the MVPs of this movie. Carrie Fisher, rest in peace. She was phenomenal here. And, I think it's getting too much flack for stuff that I think really could kind of see the franchise have more viability in the future with all the stuff they can do now as far as storylines and even Rian Johnson's, his own personal Star Wars trilogy that's in the works as well. So, it's a good movie. I'll definitely be watching it again after I get the Blu-ray. But, it's like I said, it's nice to talk about these things because now I kind of come around a lot of the stuff that I initially did not like. And, it makes for just a better understanding and a better overall experience for this movie. So
now you just gotta go do a podcast with Geekdom and he'll convince you the other way.
That might very well happen, but and then I'll be back to the fence.
And if he's listening, I love you, man. I'm just teasing you. I actually appreciate that there are 2 opposing views on this.
And like I said, that could very well happen. I'll be back on the fence again, but yeah. So you had it's like. For the longest time, it was like you were on that side, he was on that side, and I was on the fence. Because, stuff I liked, stuff I hated. Now the stuff that I hated, a lot of the stuff I come around on, with better understanding of it. So, fuck it. It's a good movie. If you haven't seen it already, check it out, especially if you're a Star Wars fan. If you're not, you might get kind of, maybe get confused or maybe misled by the mythology. Because a lot of mythology in this movie. So if you haven't watched any of the Star Wars movies, you might get confused a lot. But Star Wars fans, I'm sure, have already seen it by now. So if you haven't, definitely check it out. It's definitely at least worth the watch. What you think of it afterwards is all up to you.
All right.
And that's pretty much it on Star Wars. I expected to go 30 minutes. You went almost an hour on this.
Yeah. And we probably better log off soon if we want to get to the Golden Globes here.
Yes, I'm actually going to set the DVR now for that because I want to see that monologue because they're going to be tiptoeing around a lot of stuff here. So hold on, let me just set that up.
There's probably a good drinking game to see how many Trump mentions there are versus how many Weinstein mentions there are.
There you go. That's what I'm talking about. So let me put HDTV. Hold on. HDTV, stop. Well, that doesn't matter what time I stop it. I'm going to do fast forwarding once I finish this. But, okay. Recording is set. All right, so last topic on our episode here, episode 101, is going to be our Golden Globes preview. As I am talking, we are literally 4 minutes away from the start of the Golden Globes ceremony. Lot of interesting contenders this year. It's funny because it's like they usually start popping up like we always say around October, maybe end of September-ish. I think, honestly, they started all showing up around November. I think they kind of delayed it a month, but like they all started coming out of the woodwork November, especially in December as well. So it's hosted by Seth Meyers tonight. And I've seen a couple interviews with him saying about how he's honored to be the host, and they're kind of asking how you're going to kind of handle the whole Hollywood sex scandal thing in your monologue and throughout the ceremony, because I know there's some actresses, I don't know which ones exactly, maybe I can find an article, but A lot of them are gonna be wearing black. I think they said as a way to protest the whole Hollywood, the sex thing. So the whole Weinstein thing. So that's gonna be interesting to see who actually participates in that, who's just paying lip service to it. So let's start with the nominees. We'll start at the top and we'll work our way down. So best motion picture, as we know with the Golden Globes, there's always two categories for best picture: best picture drama, best picture musical or comedy. And for drama, we have Call Me by Your Name, we have Dunkirk, The Post, The Shape of Water, and Three Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri. So the only one I've seen so far is Dunkirk. Everything else been. You've seen, I think, a couple other ones.
I saw Call Me by Your Name and The Shape of Water. I have not seen The Post yet, and I have not seen Three Billboards yet. I think The Post goes wide and this Friday.
I think this Friday, yeah.
And Three Billboards was in. It's still in some art house places. I might. I'll see what I can do to get around to watching it. I think I don't think Dunkirk is going to win. Unfortunately, I think it's the best directed film as far as technically, but. I think the momentum right now is behind Call Me by Your Name and Three Billboards. That just from what I'm seeing on just the reaction I seem to be seeing from people. Those two are the favorites. It'll be interesting to see who wins. Call Me by Your Name was excellent. If it wins, I would be okay with that. I don't think Shape of Water, which was good. I don't think it's going to win. I don't think Dunkirk's going to win.
Oh, really? Because I've seen some momentum behind Shape of Water, actually, the last week.
I mean, that has a shot, too. But to me, I've seen the most over Call Me by Your Name and Three Billboards. To me, that's what I've seen.
Right. And as far as... And by the way, folks, we are going to be into reviews of all these movies after I see them. So hopefully within the next month or so before the Oscars, we're going... Actually, I think the Oscars are March 4th this year. So we have 2 months, about 2 months to talk about all these movies. So... musical or comedy, we have The Disaster Artist, which was awesome. We're going to do a review of that next episode when we do the Golden Globes recap. Get Out, The Greatest Showman, I, Tonya, and Lady Bird. So I've seen Lady Bird, seen Get Out. Obviously, we did 2 episodes on that movie. And we have Disaster Artist, which, like I said, we're going to do next episode. So I'm hoping, Get Out, I'm kind of rooting for that one just personally because it's one of those movies that, kind of came out of nowhere at the beginning when it came out and just created this huge buzz and it created this huge conversation, about race relations and all that stuff. And so I kind of want to see that win just because, it'd be cool to see Jordan Peele kind of get honored for that movie. But I'm kind of rooting for The Disaster Artist. That movie was fucking hilarious as well. So if either one of those two win, I'll be happy. But then again, I like Lady Bird as well. Lady Bird was good. I haven't seen the other 2 yet, but as far as any of those 3, I'll be happy. But I'll rank them as Lady Bird 3rd, Disaster Artist 2nd, and then Get Out. I'm just kind of, that's the underdog for me, so I'm really rooting for that one.
I haven't seen Greatest Showman. I was actually supposed to see it last night, but then it was actually sold out, so we ended up seeing I, Tonya.
Oh, wow.
We actually see I, Tonya instead, which is actually very good. So Greatest Showman is the one I haven't seen out of this list. I think I'm rooting for Get Out and Disaster Artist, but I think it's going to go to Lady Bird.
Okay. That's interesting. That's kind of my third choice out of those 3. But
I think that's what it's going to go to, not what I like.
No. I get it. No, but I'm just saying, that's the one I really wouldn't seek. I mean, I think the momentum is behind the other 2 personally, but I mean, you could be right with the Lady Bird thing. So let's just run through the acting categories just real quick. Since the ceremony is actually going on right now. Best actor, motion picture drama, we have Timothy Chalamet, I hope I said that correctly, for Call Me by Your Name, Daniel Day-Lewis, and what's said to be his final film performance ever in Phantom Thread, Tom Hanks in The Post, Gary Oldman in Darkest Hour, and Denzel Washington for Roman J. Israel Esquire. So that I believe the guy who did Nightcrawler, right?
Yeah,
did that one, right? So I definitely want to see maybe if that's still around. I know it's leaving theaters quickly now because that came out around end of November. Best Actress Drama, you have Jessica Chastain for Molly's Game, Sally Hawkins for The Shape of Water, Frances McDormand for Three Billboards, Meryl Streep for The Post, and Michelle Williams for All the Money in the World. I can't really make any guesses here because I've only seen I've seen none of these. So
really? So I think for actor, the momentum right now is Timothy Chalamet and Gary Oldman. Actress, I have no clue. I've seen Shape of Water, and she was really good in that, but I don't know if they'll go with her or not. So I still have to catch up with a lot of these. So I'm not sure.
Yeah, so we'll kind of put a pin in that one. Let's look at best performance in a motion picture musical comedy. Best actor musical comedy. We have Steve Carell for Battle of the Sexes. Ansel Elgort for Baby Driver, which shocked me. I was very happy to see him get recognition because I love Baby Driver. James Franco for The Disaster Artist. Hugh Jackman for The Greatest Showman. And Daniel Kaluuya, I don't know if I'm saying his name correctly, for Get Out. Best actor in musical comedy. We have Judi Dench for Victoria and Abdul. Helen Mirren for The Leisure Seeker, Margot Robbie for I, Tonya, Saoirse Ronan for Lady Bird, and Emma Stone for Battle of the Sexes. I've only seen Baby Driver and The Disaster Artist and Lady Bird, so I'm going to go with James Franco all the way here. As much as I love Ansel Elgort and Baby Driver, I think James Franco's going to take this one. Best actors, I've only seen Lady Bird, and she was incredible in that movie too, so I wouldn't be surprised if Saoirse Ronan won as well.
I'm pulling for James Franco for Disaster Artist because he was amazing in that movie. I think this might be Margot Robbie's year, to be honest, for I, Tonya. But I also wouldn't disregard Saoirse Ronan either. I think Hugh Jackman's nominated in the wrong category and for the wrong movie. He should be in drama for Logan.
For Logan,
but,
man, that's what I've been saying.
No, for whatever.
I've been saying that for weeks, man. Wrong movie, but anyway, so we'll just go through a supporting actor, actress, and then director and screenplay, and then we're gonna call it a day here. Best supporting actor, we have Willem Dafoe in The Florida Project, Armie Hammer for Call Me by Your Name, Richard Jenkins for The Shape of Water, Christopher Plummer for All the Money in the World, and Sam Rockwell, the Alpha, for 3 Billboards. I just find it fascinating, bro, that Christopher Plummer was brought in to replace Kevin Spacey.
I know, I was thinking
he's
that.
Already up for all these awards, bro. And they only shot for like 2 days, I think it was.
So I saw Call Me by Your Name and Shape of Water. Armie Hammer and Richard Jenkins are both really good in that movie. I've heard a lot about Willem Dafoe and The Florida Project. I haven't seen it, but I've heard a lot of good things about it. Honestly, I kind of think they'll give it to Christopher Plummer just as a fuck you to Spacey.
Yes. I can absolutely see that happening.
I could totally see them just saying, you know what, Spacey, fuck you. This is what you get.
Yeah. And I haven't seen 3 Billboards, but I heard Sam Rockwell's an asshole in that movie. So I can't wait. I mean, I'm a big Sam Rockwell mark, so I'm definitely going to, check that one out soon, hopefully. Best supporting actress, you have Mary J. Blige for Mudbound, Hong Chow for Downsizing, Allison Janney for I, Tonya, Laurie Metcalf for Lady Bird, Octavia Spencer for The Shape of Water. I've only seen Lady Bird, but I think it's going to come down to either Laurie Metcalf or Allison Janney for this.
I think so, too. Both of them are great in their respective movies. Octavia Spencer's good in Shape of Water, but it's nothing I haven't seen her do before. But, I mean, she's good. She's fine, but nothing, like, spectacular. Allison Janney was amazing in I, Tonya, and so was Laurie Metcalf. So I think it's between those two.
Definitely. You have Best Screenplay, Shape of Water, Guillermo del Toro and Vanessa Taylor. Lady Bird, Greta Gerwig. The Post, Liz Hannah and Josh Singer. 3 Billboards, Martin McDonough. And Molly's Game, Aaron Sorkin.
I think this is
I think Shape of Water could get this.
I think it's going to go Greta Gerwig, honestly.
Oh, you know what? Yeah, you're absolutely right. Greta Gerwig or Guillermo could get this, but
Guillermo could get it too. He could get it too, but I think, again, I'm just judging by the politics of the situation. If you really want to, she's a female screenwriter. This is the female empowerment year. Down with these disgusting dudes or fucking people over. And yeah, Greta Gerwig seems like a good choice.
Yeah, I would say she's like my front runner right now, and then Guillermo would be second. And then finally to wrap up, so Best Director, you have Guillermo del Toro, Shape of Water, Martin McDonough for 3 Billboards, Christopher Nolan for Dunkirk, Ridley Scott for All the Money in the World, and our boy Senor Spielbergo for The Post.
If there's any justice, it'll be Christopher Nolan, because I mean that movie, even if it's not the best movie of the year, if you don't think it's the best movie of the year, that was such a fucking well-directed film. Like he can direct the fuck out of a movie. I mean, that was an amazing accomplishment. So, but I don't think he'll go to him. It'll probably, I actually don't know who it's going to go to. I think this is actually kind of up in the air for me.
Yeah, it seems like it could go to any one of these. Like my first would probably be Nolan. Second would be Guillermo del Toro. They could give it to Ridley Scott kind of because of how he was able to pull off the Christopher Plummer thing. So that could be a reason why to give it to him. Spielberg, The Post, that whole story. I haven't seen the movie yet, but just the whole story kind of relates a lot to what's going on with like the press and Trump today. So they could give it to him as an FU to Trump. So it could go to either one of these guys, I think. But my front runner personally is Nolan, followed by Guillermo del Toro. So hopefully one of those guys can get it.
All right.
And that's our mini Golden Globes preview. It's going on right now. So we'll be talking about it, recapping the ceremony on our next episode 102. But for now, we're going to wrap up episode 101. Any questions, comments, feedback, just send an email to fpmpodcast@gmail.com. Adolfo, plugs.
EssentialFilmsPodcast.com, where you can find the Essential Films podcast itself. Please subscribe to the Essential Films on iTunes, at Essential Films on Twitter. Follow us there. We got the Essential Films on Facebook as well. Also, I've got a YouTube channel, so youtube.com/Adolfo J. Acosta, and that is, I'm putting up some of our Essential Films podcast there in YouTube form, and so check that out as well. Our last podcast that we did together was Miracle on 34th Street. So it's past Christmas now, but it's still a good episode if you want to check it out. And I also did kind of like a mini episode, kind of to fill some time, where I just kind of briefly talked about some of the other holiday classics, like Home Alone, and it doesn't mean that we won't do these films in the future, but it was just kind of a quick episode, like just 20 minutes or so. Home Alone, Bishop's Wife, Die Hard, things like that. So those are my plugs.
Yeah, and you can go ahead and follow me on Twitter @SportsGuy515, and you can follow the show on Twitter @FPMoviePodcast. And that's pretty much it. So like I said, next episode we'll be recapping the Globes. We're going to be starting our reviews for the award season films. We're going to start off with Disaster Artist and Lady Bird, and maybe squeeze in one more depending on what I'm able to see this week. But that's going to do it for us. So do you have any final words, Adolfo?
I don't. We'll see you next time, I guess.
All right, so on behalf of Adolfo, I'm SportsGuy515. Thanks again for joining us, and until next time, we are out of here. Take it easy, folks.